as suspects in connection with the alleged crimes, with the aim of jeopardizing the security network in Nigeria.
The recent circulation of a drug-related case linked to the presidential candidate Bola Ahmed Tinubu has been a major talking point on social media.
There seems to be more drama than an intriguing soap opera. Alleged expose on the APC presidential candidate Bola Ahmed Tinubu having dual citizenship of Guinea and Nigeria.
Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Today's segment actually really kind of blows my mind because just for the backstory, as a child I was always very intrigued with war reporters, journalists that were always on the field, and that's probably why I ended up some way somehow in a profession linked to communications, strategic communications, working in PR. The funny part is actually I could have never imagined this kind of wonder. And why I say that is because it blew my mind, but at the time, which was 20 years ago, I couldn't imagine the profession as it was. First of all, I didn't have the tool. I didn't really understand how everything worked. What was investigative journalism? I didn't know much about it. I just watched images. But also, we didn't have things like social media, and we didn't have all the tools to understand how it worked the way we do today. So when I say that it really blows my mind, is just to say that the guest that I have today, I truly believe that he is a generational voice for his people, but for the people as a whole. And at the same time, what it does is incredibly dangerous for his own life. So I really want to understand what it means to be a media personality today, using all the tools that you have at your disposal, but also, the different type of impact that it can have on your own personal life, your mental health, and how you continue to move forward. So without further ado, we will welcome on our brand new segment dedicated to the people who actually make and break the news, the incredible author, filmmaker, journalist, David Hundeyin. Hey David, how are you?
Alive and well.
Alive and well. I like to say alive and well because it's actually, I want to say it's actually for me. First of all, thank you. Thank you for accepting the invitation. Thank you for being here. I will say it's nothing short of miraculous. First of all, because you accepted it, but also because I think that what you represent and what you do on a daily basis, as we all know, is pretty miraculous. So I don't really how it's absolutely not. So the first question is pretty. It's simple, but it's also, I think it will enlighten a lot of people because with the work that you do, I'd like to understand where you come from. And my question is pretty much to understand how and why. Why are you the way that you are? Is there a mentor in your life who instilled something in you, or were there a lack and you said that, oh, this is what I didn't see and I want to do more of it, but how did it come about to be the way that you actually have?
Okay, so I guess the first thing I'll say, some of the things that I'm going to say might sound sort of pseudo-religious, but they're not, because I'm actually watching that to be atheist. I don't believe in the traditional concept of a supreme being. I don't go to church or anything like that. However, having said that, I do think there's such a thing as obvious. I think there's such a thing as hiding a books. And I think from a relatively young age, I've kind of had an idea. I didn't know I wanted to be a journalist, but I knew that I wanted to tell stories. That's what I wanted to do. First of all, because I was very good at it. And second, because I missed in my childhood, it was sort of my way of keeping what little autonomy that I could have at the time. I grew up in very specific contexts, which most people will not be familiar with. So I grew up in religious schools.
Okay.
All right, my family were Jehovah's Witnesses.
Okay.
So it was a very unique type of situation where, economically speaking, we were a little bit above upper middle class. I would go as far as saying we're on the verge of being wealthy.
Okay.
Not that we take wealthy, but we're able, right?
Look.
But In a sort of social sense, I was very siloed.
Yeah, very shallow.
Very, very siloed. Not just sheltered, but siloed.
Okay, what do you mean? What's the difference between sheltered and
Sheltered implies that it's almost like a benign thing. This was something else.
Okay.
Right. This
It's cluster.
This was like being in prison.
Okay.
And in fact, the house I grew up in, the street number was number 12. I used to refer to that instead of home. I used to refer to it as number 12, which is a sort of Ghana's human reference to like cell number 12. That's
Okay.
what it's called.
Okay, as a young.
Yeah, because that's
Okay.
what it's called.
Wow.
I thought we had like prison.
Okay, so you didn't have the word, but you have like, you have ways to reference to it as
Yeah.
Okay.
I knew it was supposed to be home,
Yeah.
but to me it was like jail. I knew, from my classmates of school, there's this creature called mom.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be this warm, caring thing. And I knew that what I had at home, I could not relate with what those people were talking about.
Okay.
So in so many ways, I was just sort of really disconnected from what, life was supposed to be.
Yeah.
In lives of socioeconomic strata. So the one thing I had going for me as a kid was that I had unlimited reading material.
Okay.
For whatever reason, that's the one thing my parents sort of didn't really fail at. I had unlimited reading material. Like, by the time I was 6, I'd read Mein Kampf by Adolf Hitler. to give you just an idea of
Okay.
how
Yeah.
wide the amount of material I had was. Right?
But what was it there though?
So it was on my dad's university books.
Oh, okay.
So he had a huge library at home,
Okay.
more than 1,000 books.
Oh.
So I had it.
You had access.
Pretty much have the only thing that I could.
Yeah.
Because we're allowed to have satellite TV, we're allowed to have internet access to maybe close to 2000.
Yeah.
So I grew up in the 90s.
Okay.
So I was literally I felt like I was on that hostile occupation.
Yeah.
So the only thing I could do was get hold of all this reading material. We had books here, there, and everywhere. We had magazines, newspapers, everything you can imagine. Newsweek, Reader's Digest, BBC Focus of Africa. I should remember when it used to be a print magazine. The Economist, all that stuff, and then the Terry Pratchett's collection, both the Enlightened collection, the C.S. Lewis collection, the obviously J.D. Rowling, all of that. I had everything. So all I could do was literally take my reading material to my room, which is like my little fort. And when I wanted to hide from my troubles, because there was always something going on.
Okay.
And just
Did you get in trouble, or was it something going on externally?
both. So first was I was very rebellious, very, very headstrong. I had
From the beginning.
I had a very clear idea of who I was as an individual. But that doesn't go very well with being in religious cult. Because the point of the religious cult is to strip your identity away from you and trying to control.
Yeah.
So that rebellious streak, the more you show it, the more you get hammered down. So over time I learned the best way to survive and maintain your mind intact is to hide.
Yeah.
And basically much read all you can, devour all you can, take in all you can, keep it locked in there, which is I guess partly why to date I'm very memory. I had to train myself to keep stuff locked in. You can't write stuff down with someone I come across.
Wow.
Yeah. That was hard.
Okay.
So it was a very unusual, very specific set of circumstances that created this idea. So the first idea created inside my head was that freedom is very important.
Okay.
I had that idea in my head because I understood.
But you just didn't think that freedom was dangerous, people knew that you were a free mind, so that it came with repercussion, for example.
Yeah, I understood that, and because I understood that, that made it seem even more important.
Yeah.
I must retain my individualism. I must be able to explore the world on my terms. And then, after I eventually got over that, I left the house, went up to university, which is my first taste of freedom. Especially because I didn't go to university in Nigeria.
Yeah.
I went to university in the UK. So
it
was a new environment, and I had, the ability to just explore the world. I saw it. And because of where I was coming from and that unique context, I always tell the few people I still have around me, I always tell them that most of the people I knew from back home who we grew up together, who went off to university together alongside me, they all have this, they all click. So people, you've known the same people since you meet Nigeria, go to UK, and you're with the same set of people. I was all like, I wanted to know it.
You couldn't wait to just leave them.
Yeah, so it was something I used to do back in the day. People thought I was insane. Friday afternoon, lectures have ended. I was like 18 years old. And I just go to the trains. I just pack up my bag.
Okay.
Go to the train station in Hull, because I was in University Hall.
Okay.
I just sort of look at the departing trains. So I pick a seat. I'm going back. I'm going to stand in the middle. It was an expensive habit.
I guess, but
just to give you an idea of the headspace
that
I existed in at the time. Incidentally, even the choice of what I studied at university is like part of this dynamic, because my siblings, I have 4 siblings, were nowhere near as single-minded as I was. Unfortunately for me, because there was always that why can't you get more like? My siblings were perfect children. So my brother became a doctor, he's a doctor. My oldest sister became a Nigerian with BP. My immediate older sister became a bank.
All the very classic.
Yeah, we don't know what movie stop working on with hold on second.
What?
That was me.
Yeah.
Who said he wants to be a bank for what they? And I was happy.
Yeah.
Why my parents were so disappointed. Because I was and very much am the black sheep. And so disappointed.
Would you say to this day, do you think that with everything that you've done, I mean, how much is enough? Like,
so for them, I don't think, first of all, my dad is late, and he never really got to see this.
Yeah.
But even for the surviving people, I think it's not really about what I've achieved, what it's more about.
Is it worth it?
No, it's not even that. It's more about, this is not what he was supposed to do. This is not what he was supposed to do. We are respectable upper middle class people who move around our noses in the air, who eat without forks and knives, and we're very sort of hoity-toity people. And then you are sort of this guy who goes around cussing on Twitter. What is wrong?
You do.
Yeah.
You do. You do. But okay, so let's say at least you actually fulfill what you set out to do.
Yeah.
You said you were going to be a journalist. Yeah. That's what you studied for, right?
I studied creative writing and journalism. It was a joint honors.
Okay. So you kind of exceeded the journalism expectation, no?
Yeah, you can say that, yes.
And they're still not wound?
I don't think I ever going to be. Because again, that's the dynamic of being in a religious cult.
Okay, so there's always the religious lens.
Not in this way. Okay. And
yeah, that's actually very.
You could become the head of NASA.
Yeah.
Colonize Mars, and as long as you know that you're going there, so be heading to it.
Okay, so that makes sense. So for as long as you basically just wanted to escape. It wasn't for you. It never was for you, and you were just like, this is not going to. But is it from very early on? The religion is not for me. I understand the spirituality of things, whatever the case may be, but it's just not a match. Or was it like altogether you just don't want anything to do with it? So the dynamics of the family.
It was a total rejection, not just of faith, but of an entire way of doing shit. So, because I guess the privilege that I had was I was one of the few people that have the opportunity to grow up at what I call a junction, where you can see different ways of life.
Yeah.
And you have this sort of vantage points where you can make judgments.
Yeah.
And I can see, for example, so let me give an example of my parents used to make a carry around this thing called the durable power battery, right? Okay. Which was issued by the religion.
Okay.
And on it was written that in the event that I have an accident and no one around knows me, and I'm losing blood or whatever, and things hospital.
Okay.
I am one of Joe's investors, and under those circumstances, I'm going to give a blood transfusion, even if it cost me my life. I had to sign it, carry that around.
Is it a thing?
As a kid. Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah. So as a kid, you walk around with death warrants in back pocket.
Oh wow.
There's no way you go into that if you're someone who thinks.
Yeah.
Doesn't strike you guys.
No, but it was the same day, like, is it?
Absolutely free.
So, do you know the premises? Why is it like that?
It's a doctrinal issue.
Okay.
So again, this is what I mean when I say that I saw things and I knew that it didn't make sense. Because this is such a big doctrinal issue that you mustn't take a blood transfusion. You get started, you take a blood transfusion. It's a very big thing.
Okay.
And what's the doctrinal basis, or what's the scriptural basis for it? Apparently, some culture, Old Testament, when Moses tells the children of Israel that they are not to eat blood. And then some group of 12 white guys in New York City, Brooklyn, sat down and said, yeah, let's take this stuff and let's create this story out of it and just thoroughly mess up the lives of 7 million people worldwide. Because absolutely, we can't do it.
Yeah.
So the other thing that told me, apart from just the way that power can easily be misused and the habits, is also the fact that I remember maybe I was 8 or 9 years old. I was thinking to myself that if these were 12 Nigerian men in Jehovah who came up with this story,
Who would care?
like
Who will listen?
would they have this sort of ability to like influence people's lives around the world? Because they have lawsuits about this all over the world. I don't know if you're familiar with Jehovah's Witnesses. They are a lot more powerful than you think. And they are a lot wealthier than you think.
Yeah.
Billions, they have that. The organization has that. Another thing it does is that it extracts money from its members.
Yeah.
So when you're encouraged when you die to will all your estate to
Oh, okay.
yeah, there's a significant non-zero chance when my mom passes on, she's probably going to do that.
Yeah.
For context, my mom's a billionaire.
Okay.
But there's a significant possibility that she's going to do it. Yeah. So, and I remember thinking to myself that if this is a group of 12 men in that they were doing well, I did it, like, holy shit. But the others are 12 white men in Brooklyn. They get to have this outside impact on the world. And that was the first time, like, I didn't know what the term was.
Yeah.
But that was the first time I started having an idea of what, like, colonial space. Yeah. I didn't know what it was. I didn't understand what I didn't get term for it. But I started to understand that there is a power imbalance in the way the world works.
Yeah.
And I don't like it. Because why the hell do these guys get to tell me what to do across the Atlantic?
Yeah.
Like, they know nothing about me.
And you're
Like, our context are completely different.
Yeah. But still.
So, I'll give you another example of this. I remember, so every Sunday, we used to have this, so the church is called the Kingdom Hall, right? So we go to the Kingdom Hall, we used to have this thing called the Watchtower Study. So if you remember the magazine Watchtower, it's a Jehovah Witness.
Okay.
So we used to study an article. There's a question and answer session basically.
Okay.
Which at least I got to find out was like your university programming, but that's another story. So there's a question and answer session.
Okay.
You read the segments, and then there's a question that's asked, and there's all those kind of answers, right?
Yeah.
And this particular one I can't forget was talking about why higher education is not good, basically.
Okay.
And the premise of the argument is that going after worldly things, striving for better, takes kind away from Jehovah.
Yeah.
And what the article is saying is that they have a fruitful career in like tailoring and carpentry. And in the context where it was written in New York, you can have a fulfilling career in tailoring and carpentry.
Yeah, but a tailor in Nigeria.
It's not the same.
Yeah. Okay, I get it.
They don't know that.
Yeah.
They don't care.
Yeah, of course they don't.
You know, we sitting in Lagos have to sit down and read that nonsense.
And say that, you
are uncomfortable because you better look at another thing I couldn't help but to say is you look around you, there's 100 people at the Kingdom Hall. First of all, this Kingdom Hall, this structure, my dad built it.
Okay.
Because my dad owned the land there, and he basically built that and deleted it, which time is the thing they do, right?
Okay.
So first of all, there's already that implied imbalance here. There's some people who are like super wealthy, and then the vast majority are just like struggling to feed, right? So we grew up in an 8-bedroom mansion, right? I grew up in an 8-bedroom mansion.
Yeah.
It's like upmarket street Lagos.
Okay.
We live there, we drive down the expressway, 7 kilometers down the expressway to this place called the Ekiti, which is where this place was. So my dad initially had plans to open a supermarket there, but he decided to build a normal.
Okay.
As you do. So we go there, directly across the highway, there's this huge landfill site.
Okay.
And the smell wafts so regular. So the whole place just permanently stinks. Right? So that's what. You go in there, like everyone around you, you could just, you know, where like they're not dirty or anything, but like poverty has.
Okay. Yeah.
Sadness. And
Was it an impoverished era?
Very much.
Okay.
Very, very much. And you look at yourself and you're sitting there that moment that you look at that. And you're like, oh gosh. I used to be extremely
Possible.
What made it worse was that Jehovah's Witnesses, I'm sure you know, they have this thing and they preach.
Okay. Yes.
We have to do that too.
Oh wow.
So, I mean, I was happy that I didn't get to preach, with GRA for my friends were
Okay.
school. Thankfully, I'm still grateful for that. I have really messed up my life. But the downside is I had to preach in this place, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you've heard these buildings that they refer to as facing ambition.
I don't know. What is
Some buildings.
Okay.
The facing ambition is a local term. Basically means you open this door and there's another door opposite.
Okay.
So it's just
because it's very small. Okay.
So you call it face me and face you.
Okay.
That's the majority.
Okay.
So you're going in there, the house is hot.
Yeah.
Obviously there's issued house license for it.
Yeah.
So the house is hot, it's not well aerated, smells of pee, because there's a bathroom down the hallway that everyone shares.
Okay. Yeah.
So this thing whiff of pee in the air, and then kerosene residue, because everyone cooks with the kerosene stove.
Yeah.
And like dozens of humans crammed together, that sort of hint of like body odor.
Yeah.
You have to walk in there. And you have to pretend like your cells have not been assaulted. But yeah, obviously you can't go invest with your nose because you're trying to talk to them and give them literature and stuff. So if you're like scrunching up your face and disrespecting them, and the wish got me into trouble that time. And when I was into it used to be even worse because we used to charge them for those things.
Charge who?
People wait. So you're selling your website or your lead and have to trade in there. Yeah. Oh God.
So you're the rich people, you go to the
Oh yeah, all the they very intensive.
Yeah, I know. But you look a certain way and you take the little money that they have.
So you leave your 8-bedroom palace, right? Get into this movie, drive down the expressway, come to this area, you can't even park outside because it's not safe. So you park inside the mall because it's in so far there. Lock the gate behind you. And then you walk around 10 more people at the kingdom of God is where there's salvation.
Yeah, that's a lot.
So from when I was little, I was listening, none of this made sense. Even the poor people too. What you did also doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
There are lots of things I saw that I was a total rejection.
Okay, so yeah, that's very tricky. But so it gave you a hint of what you thought was problematic, but at that time you didn't really know. It was just like, okay, this is.
I had several fragments of ideas, but I wouldn't say I had like a fully formed picture of what I thought was wrong with Nigeria as a society or with the world around me.
Yeah.
I had different things that I didn't like. And at the time, my vision was quite limited, actually. My idea was, once I go to university and once I get out of here,
I'm free.
So all my siblings went to university outside Nigeria. So 3 of them went to university in Ghana. 1 of them went to university in the UK. So I wanted to go to university in the UK, which eventually ended up happening, but not immediately. So the idea that I had then was once I get to the UK, then That's it.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna do what my sister did. I'm just gonna finish my degree, get a job, get a post-study work visa, settle,
Yeah.
get married, and that's it. And just become British.
Yeah.
In my mind at the time, I thought that being living in the West
Yeah.
somehow meant that one had transcended
Yeah.
these
The
issues
struggles.
I want to deal with.
Yeah.
Right. That's the idea I had in my head.
Yeah.
So I mean, I remember. After I finished my A levels, I didn't get to go to the UK, which I was very upset about.
Okay.
My parents were like, "So you want to study writing, and we should pay
Yeah, for you to go
international
abroad.
students' fees
Yeah.
in pound sterling for you to go study writing." It's not happening. So I ended up going to a private university in Nigeria called Ekiti State University for 8 months.
Okay.
That didn't end well. That didn't end well. Yeah, so I ended up going to this private university in Edo State called Ekiti State University for just about 8 months, and that
Okay.
did not end well.
Why? Because you didn't want to be there, or it wasn't good? Or...
So I was constantly falling ill for a number of reasons. The place is called, it's a private university, but I don't know why they bother, honestly. Like,
Okay.
we didn't have running water at the time. Like, it was really, really bad. It was
Okay.
really bad. And it wasn't cheap. So it just made no sense.
Okay.
So I remember December 2007, I came back home and I'd lost close to a third of my body mass.
Oh, that's a
So I
lot.
had 3 in 1. I had malaria, I had dysentery, and I had typhoid
Hey.
at the same time.
Hey, okay.
That was bad.
Yes.
And then, I kept falling ill. And then,
Yeah.
The university itself, I got into trouble with them.
Okay.
Because again, my alluta consciousness was
Yes.
so I discovered that I was in the mass communications department.
Yes.
I discovered that because I was studying mass comm, and I discovered that the person who was the head of department wasn't actually, he used to make us call him Dr. Mande, right? I discovered that not only did he not have a doctorate, he didn't even have a master's degree.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was lecturing at Benin University and he was running a master's program at Uniben concurrently, University of Benin, which is like a real university.
Yeah.
So he was getting his master's degree at University of Benin.
Oh, he was getting.
Yes. He was
He's
getting his master's degree at a real university, University of Benin.
While he was teaching you
He
guys.
was teaching us in this toy university called Benin University.
Oh,
Right?
toy university.
Yeah, I wrote a petition. I wrote a petition.
Oh, so you were one
I
of
was-
those in university who was
Oh,
just like,
yeah.
no.
Yeah, and I was 17. Like, I didn't
Wow.
know better.
But you still did it.
I thought that, even if for nothing else, for the fact that this is private, and my folks have paid 700,000 naira for me to be
Yeah,
here.
it should be better somehow, some way.
I wrote
It
a
should-
petition, and I didn't know that in Nigeria you don't do things like that. I wrote a petition, and next thing I knew, they were making noise about kicking me out.
Okay.
Yeah, they said they found some problems with my admission file, and I'd have to go write my O levels again. It's like, at this point, my parents they were like, you know what, this guy,
Yeah,
you're
let's.
either gonna die or you're gonna get killed.
Yeah.
So all of you can just come and be great.
Yeah.
So it wasn't even like they gave me what I wanted. It was more like they were just frustrated. Okay,
Yeah, just
take
go.
this guy.
Yeah,
Just
go away.
you know,
Okay.
it's not as if you're going to do anything with this degree, but yeah, whatever. I remember when I was leaving, my dad told me he never did this with any of his other kids. He showed me an account with a balance inside it,
Yeah.
and he said, "This has your tuition fees for 3 years."
Yeah.
Inside it. So if you fail a year, you're the one that knows how you're going to graduate.
Yeah.
Because I'm not paying for an extra year.
You managed.
So yeah. He told me that's how frustrated he was. Like,
Yeah.
just take this thing and go. So they didn't really think I was gonna do much with my life.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do with a degree?
But Okay, so I would think that, okay, when you mentioned the religion, but I would think that, okay, if you're in a privileged environment and your parents were who they were, they wouldn't associate that spirit of rebellion and you being inquisitive to being a good, great journalist.
They didn't want me to be a journalist
That's
at all.
Okay.
So, first of all, they thought that journalism, above all else, was a waste of time in Nigeria. It's not economically viable. Journalists are constantly being harassed
Yeah.
by the
True.
state and security services. What do you want to do? You want to go work and punch newspaper? Or what? Like, I remember my dad asked me that question. You want to go and work and punch newspaper? What do you want?
No, these two purchases.
He didn't understand.
Okay. Yeah.
at all. And I'll be honest enough to say that I didn't necessarily have a clear picture of what I
Yeah, of course. You
Yeah.
didn't. Yeah.
either. I
That's
just knew
true.
I wanted to do this.
Yeah.
So I can imagine how frustrating it must have been for him.
Who knew a little bit more about like the
Yeah, because he knows
economic
about life.
ins and out.
And he
Yeah.
just sees this strong-haired 18-year-old kid who is just convinced that he
Yeah.
knows what he doesn't know. You know,
Well, if you had to just fast forward to now, what is the environment in Nigeria for, let's say somebody is an up and coming journalist? Like, what does it look like? The media space?
it's absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
There's no sugarcoating it. It's
Yeah.
really awful. It's
Yeah.
terrible. I know this as a matter of personal experience.
Yeah.
When I came back to Nigeria in 2013.
Okay.
So I finished my degree in 2011.
Okay.
Worked in the UK for 2 years.
Okay.
And it just didn't happen for me.
Okay.
So the career I thought I was going to build, it just didn't happen. Very bad timing. The economy was in the toilet at the time.
Yeah.
The conservatives came in and they shifted the goalposts in the middle of the game, as they always do.
Yeah.
So then I couldn't renew my visa. There was a whole lot.
Yeah.
So instead of like getting into a career, because I wanted to get like a graduate trainee program and just like build from there, I ended up bouncing around contract roles, 1 month here, 2
Yeah.
months here. I ended up doing jobs I felt I had no business doing.
Yeah.
So if there's any kind of there's any kind of silly, hustle.
Yeah, jobs
think
you
of
had
that
to
is-
do. Yeah.
I've been a janitor. I've worked on supermarket till. I've worked in
Yeah.
warehouses. What's the worst job I had? I worked in a chicken factory once, and my job was after the chicken has been beheaded and it's on the line
Yeah.
going past me. My job was to put my hand through, wearing gloves obviously, put my hand through the neck hole, bring out the heart, and toss it. And sometimes the heart is still be beating and be sweating blood. Yeah. And no matter how much you shower after the shift, you can't get that smell of
I don't care.
darkness off you.
Oh wow.
Yeah. There's no stupid job I did not do. And eventually I just got tired of it all. Like,
Yeah, you were just like, this was not the plan. This was not the
can't be
plan.
doing.
Yeah.
So I sort of swallowed my ego and got on a plane.
Yeah.
You have like 120 pounds in my account. Yeah, I didn't even tell my parents I was coming. I just showed up. Ta-da! Guess who's back? They
Wow.
were expecting me. So I did my youth service between 2013 and 2014. We have this thing in Nigeria. It's called
Yeah, the youth service, yeah.
Yeah, so I served at the broadcasting service of Ekiti State.
Okay.
That was my first experience with journalism in Nigeria.
Okay.
Broadcast journalism. And the first thing I came to understand was, apart from this was a government-owned institution. So putting aside the fact that obviously it doesn't pay well and all that, I also got to understand that it's a very dog-eat-dog kind of environment.
Okay.
Everyone imagines that they're auditioning for something.
Okay.
They're trying to get noticed, they're trying to get seen. And it's not legitimate ambition, trying to build your career, it's more like there's one big man somewhere who's going to be impressed when he sees.
Okay.
So I'll tell you a story about my time at BSCS. So I was on EKTV, I was a news anchor. Well, I wasn't an anchor, I was presenting the business news
Okay.
at 7 p.m. So we had this roster where some days you're on air, some days you're producing.
Yeah.
So this
Okay.
particular day, I wasn't on air.
Okay.
So I didn't come dressed
Yeah.
to go on air. I was wearing just like a white tee
Yeah.
and a coat. So the person who was supposed to be on air apparently didn't
Show up,
wasn't.
yeah.
So they said, go stand in for him. And I said I'm not properly dressed.
Yeah.
And they were like, no, it's fine. Just wear your jacket. It's fine. It's not a problem. I wore it and I did the thing. And I came to work the next day and they said the governor put a call through that who was that news presenter who wasn't properly dressed? Take him off the air. And long story short, it turned out that I had been set up. Because apparently someone thought that I was coming to take their job.
Oh, okay. So they pushed the.
Yeah, so they intentionally put me on air.
Yeah. Oh,
The
okay.
governor's going to be watching because apparently he watches the daily news bulletin on EKT.
Yeah.
And then I got taken out.
Okay.
Because apparently the dream, if you're working in that kind of establishment in Nigeria, is the governor or some rich person is going to notice you and they make you some special advisor or some PR consultant.
Okay, but they're going to notice you randomly? Is there So they just see you on TV and they like you and they notice. I mean,
They
is that person?
see you enough times, and oh yeah, that boy is good. You know, that's how it works in Nigeria. There's no structure
So
to
you
anything.
will go as far as like pushing someone out
Yeah.
on the basis of something that is not really tangible.
It is very tangible because other people have made that.
Yeah, but they have. But when you say it's not a process, it's like if they like you and if they see you. So it's not a me, for example. You can be there every day and they still don't like you. So what's the process? So you know.
I mean, it's gambling.
Yeah, so you will gamble also with someone else saying
Yeah.
that, oh, I will push him out,
Yeah.
not even knowing
But
that.
the off chance that they
Yes.
because again they had this idea because obviously I was coming from the UK. I think I have.
Oh, okay. You had a lot more chances than them
Yeah,
because you had. Okay.
I think I have a lot more. I think I sound a lot more localized now.
Yeah.
At the time, I was just speaking
were
with this
fresh.
like Oxfordshire twang and everything, and
It's like okay, yeah, next time.
you know, because
Okay.
they're like impressed by that kind of thing.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
they
I
thought
understand.
"Ah, this one wants to come and
Yeah, I understand. Understand.
so, and that wasn't my last experience with things like that.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
even after when I came back to Lagos, my first gig actually, I was actually supposed to resume at Vanguard newspaper.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, this was 2014, and I think they're offering something like 35,000 naira a month, which is even at the time that was
Yeah.
even back then, not to talk of now. So,
Wow.
but eventually, so after I made it through the recruitment and everything,
Yeah.
the editor was like, you know what? I've looked at what you've written, I've looked at your profile, and I know this is a waste of time hiring you. I can't keep you. You're gonna leave.
Yeah.
So here's what we'll do. And then he called one of his friends who ran a PR company.
Okay.
And he said, I have someone for you.
Okay. Oh, good.
That was actually how I started off in PR
Yeah.
media.
That's awesome.
Right. So, but it wasn't that simple. So I got there and I did the entry recruitment process and everything. And then I actually got the success mail from HR. And then the day I went there to collect my letter, they said they don't know where the mail came from.
How?
Long story short, there was a creative director there. I'm not going to mention his name. It's not worth mentioning. There's a creative director there who thought, again, that I was going to take this job.
Your entry, like somebody just.
Again, in this media and creative stuff,
Yeah.
movement can be very rapid.
Yeah, I understand.
In both directions.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of
Yeah.
goes on.
Yeah.
There's a lot of backbiting and all skullduggery that goes on. So he saw me. I was what? I was 24.
Yeah.
You know, he saw me as always going to take his job in a couple of years. So he firewalled it basically. He stonewalled it. He made sure it didn't happen.
It's crazy.
It turned out to be a blessing in disguise because then I ended up moving. The person who made the hookup realized what was happening and then hooked me up with another one of his friends.
Okay.
This time it was smoother. So it was an agency called Black House Media.
Okay.
Which is like one of the busiest PR agencies.
Yeah.
And basically that was where I ended up starting my career. So I started my career in PR instead of
okay.
Which I think also gave me a unique advantage. Because what that then did for me over the ensuing 2 years was that it gave me a bird's eye view of how journalism in Nigeria really works.
Yeah. So how you get the incoming from the journalist, basically, right?
What I came to understand is that in Nigeria, the tail wags the dog.
Okay.
So how PR is done elsewhere is that a PR consultant's job is to interface with journalists, provide them with context and information, and work with them. In Nigeria, it's the journalists that chase the PR people. Yeah. Because they're going to get paid. And in fact, it's a surer source of income than their own salaries. Because the organization is going to owe them. Yeah. You're working for some newspaper who officially is paying you 120,000 naira a month. They'll pay you once every 3 or 4 months.
Yeah, that's true.
But you know that if you are friendly with this PR person,
you get a stipend here.
If you one assignment in a month, that one assignment can be 100K. Yeah. You know, and you have like a family to feed. Yeah. That's actually how most of what we refer to as print journalism or online journalism actually works in Nigeria. So if I started off in journalism, I might not have seen it immediately. I would have been all idealistic and being very determined. That my ideas are in somebody's pocket until later on. But I got to see it from the start because I was on the other side. Yeah. and I got to see like it was actually, you know, I also got to see that even the process of like building bylines, building a voice, the so-called established people will even try and sabotage you because everybody's trying to be, everybody's competing with everybody.
Yeah, I think it's the mentality, crab in a barrel. If there's no systemic way out, and if nobody can sustain themselves, and that's why. So I'm from Cameroon. So I mean, we're not better.
Very similar. Very similar.
So it's just like, and that's what shocks me the most. It's just like the 1%. You thought, oh, I'm gonna get to the 1%, and my life will be so much better. It's not.
Same.
Yeah, because they're also all
It's the same at a higher level.
competing. Yes, and it's no way of living because no one can fulfill their full potential.
Exactly.
No one can do what they really want to do because it's just like I need to kill someone to get
What
to
you
what I've
described,
Yeah.
the same problem Nigeria has, which is lack of a proper elite,
Yeah.
lack of and it's lack of elite formation.
Okay.
So the animating psyche of societies like ours.
Yeah.
I don't think this is the Nigerian issue. I think this is an African issue. Actually.
Yeah.
It's not even a West African or West Central African issue. It's an African issue where I'll give you an example. This was in 2016. I did my first ever. So it was a big deal back then to do a center spread story for a major national daily.
Yes.
So the story that gets to be in the center.
Yeah.
So it's like a 2,000 word piece. It's
Okay.
a really big deal. It probably still is
Yeah.
kind of a big deal. So I think it was on this day.
Okay.
Like a major national daily newspaper. I was working in PR then.
Okay.
I got the opportunity to do a center spread.
Great.
My boss gave me the opportunity. So I very, very happily wrote the story.
Yeah.
And my boss said he was going to give it to this guy whose name I'm not going to mention. He's a very well-known writer in Nigeria.
Okay.
If I say further to identify him, so let's just leave it.
Yeah, sure.
And this guy apparently was supposed to edit
Okay.
thing. Yeah, and he really liked it. And he liked it so much that when it came out, there was his name on it.
So you just keep it to your name.
Yeah, he removed my name and put his name.
Okay.
He just took it.
Okay. Just
He just took it. That's it. That's the end of the story. He just took it.
and
There's nothing I could do.
wow.
Because in his mind, that's a good byline for me to have. So yeah, I'll just take it.
I mean, you're already in position, so you can collaborate. No, you can.
Not
You can be a co-author. No.
so be it in the journalism space, be it in the writing and authoring space,
Yeah.
which is adjacent, and the two spaces are linked. It's the
Yeah.
same thing. Everybody's a crab
Yeah.
trying to eat the next man. You know. So
I mean, if you do it intellectually, like in spaces where you're a writer, you're supposed to, have the intellectual acumen, I would say. Yeah. Okay.
Again, it's the society that we live in.
Yeah.
So
I mean, also I understand because it's just like now we're talking about survival. When you talk even about the basis of the salaries, I'm just like at this point.
sometimes it's not even just about the salary. So after I left PR and I ended up at Channels TV, I ended up in broadcast.
Yeah.
The conditions were a lot better.
Yeah. Still.
The payment was higher, the salary was higher, it was on time. Constant channels that
Okay.
paid salaries, at least while I was there, that never happened.
Great.
People that were there were getting relatively well paid and everything, but there were just constantly issues because the show that I worked on, it was called The Other News. It
Okay.
was a political satire show, Nigeria's first and I believe only primetime political satire show. So if you watch the
Great.
Daily Show,
Yeah.
you know, so we had our own Daily Show.
Ooh, that's good.
It was funded by Osiwa.
Okay.
So it was a very expensive show.
Yeah.
It's an expensive show on Channels TV. And because of who funded it and the amount of money that was involved, we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
So obviously we got treated a bit differently.
Yeah. Of course.
Which I think is not extraordinary.
Yeah.
So for one thing, we got paid on average more than the staff at Channels TV, the regular staff.
Okay.
Technically contractors who were,
Yeah. You were on another budget.
but they didn't see it that way. So for one thing, we were also, it's a political satire show. So the creative team obviously will be quite young.
Okay.
I was one
Yeah.
of the oldest people on the team. I was 27.
Oh wow.
Yeah, they were
That's
24
really
year old
good.
on the team. Yeah, they did not like us.
I can understand, especially from an African standpoint. It's just like you youngins.
They had a sarcastic nickname for us. So they used to call us the Super Eagles.
Wow.
Yeah, so the Super Eagles is like Nigerian.
Yeah, Nigerian football.
All
And
the
it's super.
superstars are here.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Earrings and dreadlocks and body art.
And all the stereotypes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh my goodness. They did not like us at all. There was a lot of like, I got to see the politics
Yeah.
being in media.
Mhm.
It was brutal. There is one incident I can never forget. I saw two, they weren't even journalists, they were drivers.
Yeah.
I saw them get into a fist fight on the premises. Why did they get into a fist fight? Because apparently one of them had been rostered to go on a trip to, I believe it was to Benin, to
Okay.
interview someone
Okay.
with a broadcast team.
Okay.
And then this other driver had gone, I think had some friend in HR who had kicked the other guy's name out and put him on the roster. And I remember thinking to myself, why are you fighting to get rostered? And then I got to hear later on that every single time that a broadcast man is dispatched
Yeah.
to go interview someone or go cover a story, it's being paid for.
Yeah. I mean,
It's not news.
okay.
It's not news. It's paid content. It's not presented to the viewer as
Oh, okay. But it's actually sponsored. Okay.
and every member of the team has like is given like a
Yeah, a stipend or
I want to
something.
use the term brown number. It's not the station that gives
Yeah.
it's the person who they're going to interview.
Oh, okay. So it's
Yeah.
actually
Yeah,
by the
so-
person. Okay, that's.
The presenter maybe gets like 500K, and the camera people get
Oh,
like 150,
yeah.
the drivers maybe get 50 or something. So people literally used to fight each other to get rostered. And by the way, this was probably one of the better media establishments in Nigeria.
Yeah.
Channels is near the top.
Yeah.
Airtel near the top. So you can imagine how it would have been in.
For like a smaller.
Yeah. It was brutal. Absolutely brutal. And even within our team, we were CSO sponsored. We didn't have any issues with financing or anything.
Yeah, but still.
But still, there were issues.
But I think it stems from the basis. Like people are used to not having much because all of them come from somewhere.
Exactly.
They didn't start here.
Exactly.
So it's just like now that I have it good, guys,
Exactly.
we will just literally go into fist fight because
We're going to die here.
yes,
Literally. Yeah. That was the mindset.
it's
Eventually, after I was there for 3 seasons, so just over a year.
yeah.
And
How long did the show run?
the show ran for 6 seasons, so I was there for half of it.
Yeah.
So I was there from 2017 to late 2018, and then I went my own way.
Yeah.
So I set up a copywriting agency because I said I'm done with journalism. Just want to make some money now, or whatever.
Yeah.
So I set up a copywriting agency, and I was doing that for about 5 minutes, and then the bug bit me again. So
It was just like
March 2019, I did a story which was actually for an American, I think it was for Yahoo Finance. So I used
Okay.
to work for them. And it was about Nigeria, but it was for an American audience.
okay.
But the internet is a very strange place where audiences intersect.
Yes.
And somehow it just went super viral in Nigeria.
Nigeria.
Bear in mind, pretty much nobody in Nigeria knew who I was at.
Oh, at that time.
I think I had like 700 followers on Twitter or something. I was a nobody. Nobody knew who I was. I had appeared in the New Yorker. I had been given an IVLP,
Yeah.
but nobody
Still,
knew who I was.
yeah.
I was like one of like the best kept secrets in the media space, right? And then all of a sudden, this article, which wasn't an investigative piece, it was like an opinion column. right?
Okay.
It just went gangbusters for a reason I don't still fully understand. And all of a sudden, overnight, Business Day and a couple of other
Yeah. They're reaching out. Okay.
to do like opinion columns, editorials, that sort of
Okay.
thing.
On the same topic or just in general?
General.
Okay.
So with Business Day specifically, because I can't tell the story without Business Day. So they were very pivotal because what they said was our audience is kind of starting to age out.
Okay.
And obviously for media to survive, the audience needs to be young.
Yeah.
So we've determined that part of the reason we're aging out is that most of the people on the platform are like 45 up.
Okay.
So we need younger voices on the platform, and we think you fit the bill.
Oh wow. Okay.
So, yeah, so I started doing a weekly thing with them, which later became thrice weekly. It
Yeah.
was really successful. It was for a long time, for like 2 years, was the most read thing
Oh wow.
on there. both daily, both the print
Yeah.
and online thing. So what that did was that it sort of gave me visibility in
Yeah.
a way that I never had it in Nigeria before.
Okay.
So I think I was much better known outside Nigeria
Yeah.
than within Nigeria at the time. But that gave me visibility within Nigeria, which then gave me leverage
Yeah. Of course.
to start sort of being noticed in other spaces. So the first time I ever did an investigative story, it happened almost by accident. So I have a cousin, Joseph. He's a doctor,
Okay.
and like most doctors in Nigeria, as soon as he finished his house job, he was off.
Okay.
So I think he's in the UK now, and he did his house job at Badagry General Hospital.
Okay.
It's a hospital in Lagos, a town called Badagry. Badagry is our hometown, by the way.
Okay.
So he had a lot of terrible stories
Oh
to tell
wow.
about his time there, and he thought,
Specifically in that hospital.
yeah.
Okay.
And so he actually first reached out to people he thought were like influential people to try to
Yeah.
bring
Shake
attention
things.
to this.
Okay. Other in the media. Okay.
No, not in the media, like
Okay.
people in the town,
Okay. Okay.
including family members, because this is a prominent family
Okay.
in Badagry. And there's one particular person whose name I'm not going to mention because I don't want to get a family meeting called on my head. But Joseph goes to meet this guy to tell him about this thing. And this guy basically tells Joseph, look, this is not my problem.
Okay.
The doctor is in London.
Yeah.
So as far as he's concerned,
as
far as he's concerned, even though like he spends a lot of his time in Badagry,
yeah,
anything happens, he's not be on an air ambulance.
the privilege of it all.
Yeah, so
Okay.
And by the way, this person is a government official or was a government
Yeah. Crazy.
which gives you an idea of how the Nigerian government sees itself.
Yeah. They don't care.
So a government official is telling you that what's happening in the government is not his business because he's in the UK.
Yeah.
Because his family is there, his kids are there and everything. So as sort of like a last resort, Joseph came to me and he was like, you're a journalist, right? And you can do something, man.
Yeah.
Sure, why not?
Yeah.
I've never done that kind of thing before, but I'd always wanted to. So I took it on.
Yeah.
And it just so happened, things sort of lined up for me at that period. I was doing some work then with an NGO called Rise Networks.
Okay.
And I just written a grant proposal. I think it was a $10,000 grant or something from, I think it was MacArthur Foundation.
Yeah.
And we got it.
Okay.
And the grant was to do some investigative reporting, basically.
Okay.
Like it wasn't called investigative reporting.
Yeah.
Pretty much what it was. And I just thought, okay, so as against just writing a story, I can even do like a documentary thing because it was an audiovisual thing.
Okay.
So I ended up, that became like my first attempt at what has become like my signature style.
Yeah.
Where I mix both genres. So as against just like a written piece.
Yeah.
Also visual.
Yeah.
So that was like my first sort of crude attempt at it.
Yeah.
And it did well in the sense that it got the right kind of attention. It got the attention of the Lagos State Health Service Commission.
Okay.
You know, it didn't like make me famous or anything.
Yeah, yeah.
But it got the right kind of attention. And I thought, okay, yeah, that was good because prior to the story, that hospital was a slaughter slab.
Okay.
So the mortality rate for women doing cesarean section delivery was 4 in 10. 4 in 10. So
okay.
Yeah, out of every 10 women who needed to
for that
CS, 4 wouldn't survive.
Wow, that's
and it was for a really stupid reason.
Yeah.
The hospital was using off-brand hormone injection. Yeah, and because of that, 4 in 10 women would die.
Wow.
Very stupid reason. So after the story, when all of this was exposed and everything, they did some running around. A few people were fired.
Yeah.
So that number went down.
Oh, that's great.
Like 2 in 10, which is still too many, but
yeah.
So then the sort of light bulb went off above my head that okay, so I did something and because of that somebody's life was saved.
Yeah.
That's interesting. You know, I didn't think much of it at the time.
Yeah.
So okay, if this opportunity comes my way again, I'll be happy to take it. And then a lady called Mercy Aban.
Okay.
She runs a platform called Newswire.
Okay.
NewswireNGR.com. She reached out to me September 2019. And she had this story, which she had already sort of done all the background work on, but she wanted me to draft it.
Okay. Okay.
And I saw what she had done, and I thought I can do more than just draft the story.
Okay.
Because so it was basically a story about something called the Abuja raids.
Okay.
which you may not have heard of. So there was a period when young women in Abuja were being targeted by um, this government body working under the FCT ministry
Okay.
on the suspicion of being prostitutes. Right.
Okay.
So it was this thing called the Abuja Environmental Protection Bureau. And the lady in charge was some sort of crazy, like Islamic fundamentalist type
Okay.
who didn't know how to draw the line between her personal beliefs and her position as someone in government.
Yeah.
Just to like, mix the two.
Yeah.
So she had this thing where she used to send out people working for the AEPB, so that's police, even thugs.
Okay.
So once it gets dark and they see young women on the street, they just pack them in, take them to the police
Oh,
station.
wow.
Things were happening. Terrible things were happening. Women were getting raped
Oh, wow.
in police cells. They were invading hotels, dragging women out.
And the assumption is that you are a prostitute, so just because you're just hanging out in the street?
Because you're a young woman, basically.
Okay.
It's difficult to tell.
Yeah. They don't even have
What to
any.
deal with.
Yeah.
So that was the story. And Mercy had given me access to 3 of the victims.
Okay.
And like, I thought, I don't just want to write a story about this. Like, I feel very strongly about this. This is
Yeah.
like, someone needs to pay for this. So I think that's when like the second part of how what is now known as my signature style came into being, which is that I absolutely got emotionally involved in the story. You know, you're always told journalists don't get emotional
Yeah.
in the story.
But you do.
I always get emotionally involved in my stories 100% of the time.
Yeah.
I think that's what makes me able to tell them authentically.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes
I actually
sense.
feel some sort of connection with
Yeah.
the subject.
Makes sense.
And it did the job. Let's just put it that way. Because 2 months later, one of the victims who had actually sued the FCT ministry in court, the judgment came out in her favor.
Oh, wow.
That thing was outlawed,
Okay.
and she actually got damages from the FCT ministry, and that lady got quietly fired. And my article was mentioned in the judgment. So for me, that was like,
Oh, that's sealed.
okay.
Let's go.
People this is what you done.
Wow. No, I'm just so used to like justice just disregarding all those things.
Yeah, but
that
that
I'm
was
just
like
like when
completely-
it's
that was-
when it works,
Yeah,
it's just
completely.
like
That,
wow.
that was like taking cocaine for the first time.
I understand. That's so good.
Yeah.
I'm actually grateful that it actually went through and that justice was
It
so
was like November 2019 when that happened. So when I started 2020, it was like
yeah.
I'm clearing my desk. This is what I'm focusing on this year. So
And were you ready for 2020?
you can never be ready.
Because like you thought
Just sort of take it as it comes. So
yeah.
I remember January 2020, the very first story I did in 2020 was a story about a bank.
Yeah.
Probably doesn't make sense to mention the name of the bank. It was a story about a bank which got the chairman
Yeah.
very angry
Okay.
because he never has negative coverage because he has like Nigerian media in his pocket, basically.
Okay.
And I went and did a story which he considered to be very damaging. He
Okay.
got really angry, and that was the first time I actually fled the country temporarily because of the story.
Oh wow.
That was the first time it ever happened to me. In hindsight, maybe I didn't need to flee, but at the time,
Yeah,
I was so spooked and I was so new
Yeah.
to all
You
that.
never had like yeah.
So
Okay.
like I just got a call one day. I'm not going to mention who called. It was a journalist,
Okay.
because that's another thing. The more time you spend in this space, the more you realize that people who are on the same side as you
Are not.
actually on the same
Yeah.
side. So this guy was a journalist, and he dropped every name you can drop within my professional circle.
Yeah.
I know this person. I know this person. You know, the editor at Vanguard who gave me my first break.
Yeah.
He said, "This is my friend now." So that,
Yeah.
and the long and short was, so and so billionaire guy wants to see you tonight.
I think I saw that. You
Yeah.
said that one. And you were supposed to meet him, right?
Go to Alliance Francaise.
Oh.
This is like 7:30 p.m. It's dark.
Yeah.
To meet some billionaire at Alliance Francaise. Thankfully, I called my editor.
Yeah.
I called Mercy. Mercy said, "David, don't go. Because if you
The
go,
guys
you're
used
not going to
to-
see the light of day for the next 1 month."
He used to just locking up people,
So
right?
apparently that's the thing. You go there, you get arrested on the spot, and they're not going to do anything to you,
Yeah, but
but they're just going to lock you up.
yeah.
I
A
think,
month.
yeah.
Oh,
It's a maximum security prison in Lagos.
Max.
They lock you there for 1 month. They let you out after the 1 month. but they just gonna lock you there.
Of course, I mean, after a
Yeah.
month, it's enough.
They're gonna lock you there. So by the time you come out, you're never gonna mention this guy's name again ever. Which is how come he has no negative
Yeah.
rates, because journalists, bloggers, everybody they know to stay clear of this guy and it's Wahala. And when she told me this, I was like, because this I'd never I've been flirting before, but I've never
Yeah.
seen it at that level.
And that close.
Yeah, I've been
It was-
flirting, like I used to get like threats in my like Twitter inbox, like
Yeah.
and will touch you one day, that kind of. I was like, yeah, whatever. I think I'd been threatened by a family member actually. But
Yeah.
I think because it was a family member, I had discounted it.
Yeah.
So there's a funny story. This fighting very hard not to mention his name because I don't want to get a family meeting called. But it was 2019, the Salah celebration,
Yeah.
Muslim holiday. So the family tradition is whenever there's a public holiday, you all go to Badagry, celebrate.
Yes.
things
All
together.
together. Yeah.
So this is the man I haven't spoken to in my life. It's a really big family. Right?
Okay.
And he comes with his whole official thing, the sirens and convoy of like 7.
Yes.
And he makes a beeline for me. And he's like, that's people have been calling me in Abuja. I've been seeing the things you've been writing. And long and short, he threatens me with detention at the DSS.
At this time, it's 2019. How many stories have you even?
I hadn't done any investigative pieces. I was just doing opinion columns and stuff. But because of the way that voice was very unusual.
Okay.
In the Nigerian space, where again the expectation is that anyone who has that kind of platform in Nigeria is doing it to get noticed.
Okay.
So they expect you to be the typical Nigerian intellectual who is saying a lot and not saying anything.
Yeah, it's a lot of hot hair. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, using a lot of eloquent sounding English.
But it's not saying much. Okay, but you're not talking to anyone. You're just being okay.
All the
Okay.
people who come and write those columns like through the fire and bombast about the state of Nigeria, but nobody's actually implicated.
Pointing any fingers.
I
So
was the guy who came in and pointed fingers and said, "This person should be in jail.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
understandable.
This person who is a public official, who is this person who is a lawmaker."
Okay, so even from the op-eds, you were already
Oh, yeah.
naming names.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, it was just not the long form with the
Yeah.
proof and the
Yeah.
receipts and all the things.
I was very much.
Okay.
I was
Okay.
very much.
So I understand. So I just wanted to know what was the extent and why people were already so upset.
They were. I remember there was a well, I think I can mention his name. So there was a finance minister in the First Republic of Nigeria. This was 1966.
Okay.
His name was Festus Okotie-Eboh,
Okay.
who was legendary in his corruption. Legendary to the point where he was mentioned in Lee Kuan Yew's book
Oh wow.
for corruption.
How much are we talking?
Yeah, this guy was legendary, like a legend in the game, and I referenced it in an article that I did back. And one of his kids,
Oh.
very
Not the kids.
reached out,
Not the kids.
said very stiffly worded email, and blah blah blah. Yeah, that kind of stuff used to happen.
Yeah.
I never really sort of paid much attention to it.
Yeah. But now it was really close. He was just right
Now,
there.
I was like,
And you were ready to go, basically. I believe the
it was like, if you go to that meeting,
Yeah.
arrest you. And I've never dealt with that kind of threat before.
Yeah.
I didn't really know what to do. So I just kind of panicked.
Yeah, you left for a while.
I got on the next flight to Dubai.
Yes.
Disappeared.
Yeah, I wouldn't, yeah.
Disappeared for like 2 weeks. And then I sort of crept back into the country when I thought everything had calmed down. And then it looked like they had forgotten about me. I was like, okay, cool. So I continued, so I went back to work.
Yeah. So that's the went back to work part. So for me, when you say that, it's a little, not surprising, but it's 2019. It's not that far. It's
This
literally
was January 2020.
2020. So it's not even 5 years ago.
No.
In the meantime, things have escalated quickly.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, to me, the time frame, you have like lifelong journalists who they've done it for 20 years, so they kind of get prepared. And I'm saying that because there's a lot of
My escalation took place in like 12 months, yeah.
and
Yeah, from doing stuff about Abuja raids to actually fleeing and going looking for asylum.
yes, and in between was ENDSARS.
Yeah.
So I have so many questions.
Because that's the kind of place Nigeria is. So in Nigeria, once you
Right.
take your head up above the norm,
It just all hell break loose.
head down very quickly.
But there's also circumstantial things like, I mean, I follow a little bit of Nigerian news. Like nobody could have.
Yeah, but even within the context of ENDSARS, I think looking back on it now with the benefit of hindsight, from the perspective of the Nigerian state, I think you would say that if I were someone in the government or the security apparatus, I would look at that Day fellow and I would say, this guy not only made himself as visible as possible during this protest,
Yeah.
but potentially also contributed to sparking it up in the first place.
Yeah, so I think from the state's perspective, you would have definitely been like enemy number one, regardless. I also think that because of like ENDSARS and everything, because I think, I got to know you probably sometime in 2020. I'm not really sure when. So I think that it was both. It was like the threat went higher, but also I would say not the protection of the public. Not that we can do much if like Nigerian forces come and pick you up, but at least the awareness also went up. And I think that was kind of unprecedented because to be honest, I thought, maybe I didn't pay attention. That was my opinion.
So
when
again,
I came to
the perception that the state had up until maybe September 20
yeah.
was that this guy is just playing a long game.
Okay.
So this whole thing about him being this crusading character, he's just playing a long game. Eventually, he's going to show his hand.
Okay.
They want something. They always want something. And the truth is that they haven't people before me
Yeah.
who wanted something.
Yeah.
And
Or even if they didn't, they will cave.
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So that's a thing in Nigeria. So I guess my nuisance value had been going up, but they only thought of it as nuisance value, not as a threat.
Yeah.
So I think in April, was it, or May? April 2020, when I did I did a story that actually got a piece of legislation canned.
Okay.
So it was going through the House, and because of the story that I did on it, it got canned.
Okay.
So from that point, I think that's when they really took note of me that, okay, this guy is becoming an irritation,
Yeah.
becoming a nuisance. But it wasn't to the point, I was still living in Lagos at the time.
Okay.
I mean, I'm pretty sure they knew where I was
Yeah.
because your location is not hidden to the government, obviously. They have access to your...
Yeah, everything. Yeah.
But there was nobody coming after me or anything at the time. Yeah.
Okay.
I was a very, very loud critic of President Buhari at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I used to regularly lambast him on Twitter and stuff. And no one really... I mean, his media aides used to get into Twitter beefs.
That's with you.
He never really went beyond. I remember there was a time when he had this media aide called Tolu Ogunlesi, who used to be a journalist. Right?
Okay.
And I remember I said something which was interpreted as a threat to beat him up.
Beat up the president.
No, the
guy.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. And people really started clutching their pearls.
Yeah, they were scared. Okay.
No, clutching how dare you talk like this?
Yeah.
You're threatening to beat up a government official.
But was it was it sarcastic? What was the tone? No, it was just
what I essentially said was that there were people who did this thing you're doing before you.
Okay.
And even the people who are doing it with you now, once you guys are out of power, everyone's going to forget about everyone. But they're not going to forget you.
Okay.
I promise you, boys are going to look for you and beat you. That's what I told him.
But it wasn't you, it was the boys.
Yeah, it was interpreted as...
Yeah, okay. I mean...
Yeah, there was a lot...
Yeah, I understand, but...
there was nobody really, came after me.
Yeah.
And then, I think what I did that really sort of marked me as somebody who's going to become an issue and maybe a problem has been taken care of. In September 2020, I used to do these... kind of like the story I did that got the legislation canned.
Yeah.
I do these I can't call it a legal review because I'm not a lawyer.
Yeah.
But I used to do these reviews of legislation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
So I did this. There was this thing called the Police Reform Act.
Okay.
2020, and I did a review of this act, and this was in September, a
Okay.
few days before ENDSARS actually kicked off, right?
Okay.
Which is why I say I might have contributed in some way because there was that narrative groundwork that had been laid.
Yeah.
Unintentionally.
Yeah.
I didn't know what was coming. I was just doing my work. Right?
Yeah.
What this story basically put out to the public. And by the way, it went everywhere.
Yeah.
Everybody saw it, that kind of thing. I got invited on TV. It was a very big deal.
Yeah.
What the story showed was that this thing was called the Police Reform Act. It wasn't reforming anything.
Okay.
If anything, it was actually giving the police more unaccountable power.
Wow.
And the central thrust of the arguments was that the power that the Nigerian police has, which is already being misused to this extent, what on earth is going to happen when you start giving them this and that power? And I was using like real life scenarios to match with like clauses.
Yeah. So it made it very palatable for people to understand that. Okay.
So when there was a clause that says something along the lines of a police officer is empowered to arrest without warrant if, in his opinion, that is the only way to prevent a crime from being committed.
That's very loose.
What does that mean?
That's very okay. I understand.
Absolutely anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Very loosely worded.
Yeah.
And I was always the one making the point in public that whenever legislation is vaguely worded, it's always
it's bad.
It's always bad.
It's bad. Yeah.
Right.
It should be as bad as possible.
I even drew a comparison that the UK Police Act, it was like 70% longer than the Nigerian one.
Yeah.
Because all these things are spelled out in very granular.
Yes.
Under what circumstances the police officer is allowed to be armed?
Yeah.
Under what circumstances he's allowed to draw his arm? Under what circumstances he's allowed to release bullets? Yeah. Everything is laid out very carefully.
Yeah.
So, a member of the armed police in the UK, you cannot just pull out his weapon.
Yeah, do anything. Yeah.
Everything is very carefully spelled out. And if it's proven that he violated those things, he's gonna lose his job.
Yeah.
But in the Police Reform Act, it's just like, oh yeah, everything is discretion. The word discretion appeared so many times. I'm like, dude, you people do realize that there are two tiers of Nigerian police officers, right? There's the officer cadre who went to the police university. Those ones are not the ones worried about. It's the police recruits who went to the police colleges. Those guys that are taken from like the dregs of society. They literally go to prison cells and they take people out of there and put them in police college. Also, they recruit like gang members, all sorts of people. Because who else wants to become a police officer in Nigeria? Right? And they're going to pay you like minimum wage.
Yes.
For you to stand at the roadside wearing all black.
Wow.
And the heat. Who wants to do that? It's people who basically don't really have options.
Yeah.
Who become police recruits. And then
I never thought of it like that. Yeah. And then you empowered them to do anything. Yeah.
And then you are saying the word discretion appeared like 60 times.
Yeah.
In that bill.
Yeah.
Discretion of who? This illiterate who didn't finish primary 6. My life is going to be at his discretion, really? And I think that's what sort of started waking the public up that, this is bad.
Yeah, it really is.
And that was sort of like the narrative groundwork for what then erupted.
Yeah.
When that video came out and the ENDSARS became, oh my god.
Yeah, that's the timing.
So by doing that, I guess I had marked myself.
Yeah.
And then during the protests proper, I was that annoying guy who was, I guess we don't really have that much experience or that much of a history with civil disobedience in Nigeria.
Yeah.
So a lot of what we called protesting at the time, we were actually like, there was a lot of merriment and there were DJs.
I saw a video where you said that people were doing concerts. It's just like, are you guys protesting or you guys? And to be honest, we thought you guys were doing great. I'm not going to lie. To us, it was great. But when you put it in perspective, I was like, oh, actually, there was a lot of celebrities.
What's Davido doing there? With all due respect to Davido, who is an artist that I love and I respect.
So why would you have one? So if it's not there, some people pay attention because it's there.
Then,
and I understand the credibility.
Kind of people that you need in your protest.
But do you segregate for protests? Like anyone is needed?
No. You need to be ideologically switched on for the protest to actually have an impact.
I understand, but
it's better to have 10,000 people who know why they're on the streets and have 1 million people who are just there to party and get laid. Right? And I was that annoying guy.
Get laid.
Constantly trying to refocus attention.
Yeah, and people were just like, you're annoying us.
Eventually, I actually got so tired of it all that I actually left Lagos I took
Okay.
a flight to Abuja because I thought that the protest going on in Abuja was more serious.
Because what is the political capital? It's just like
a lot more. The people involved in protests in Abuja,
yeah,
like within the civil society space, so they're a lot more ideologically sort of switched on.
yeah.
So I thought that's where I want to be, and I really made a huge song and dance of it. I posted my flight ticket on Twitter. You know,
Why?
in hindsight,
You really thought?
in hindsight, I'm like, what the hell? Because I mean, that was like wearing like a placard on my head. Please arrest me when I land.
Yes.
You know, so that's literally.
Yeah.
I literally bought my flight ticket that night. I remember October 10,
Yeah.
and I posted it on Twitter with the confirmation code showing and everything.
That's crazy.
You know? And then I got to Abuja, and I like when we
At that time, how many followers?
maybe like 30, 40,000. I mean,
Yeah, that's enough. That's enough.
And you know, I took a selfie at the door of the aircraft when we landed. Like, I'm here, and then I started tagging people. Let's meet at. So you know, it was like.
I mean, also that was the spirit of the protest, right? You just you gather and you okay.
It was, however, it's like I guess like many people, I made the horrendous mistake of underestimating what the state was capable of.
Okay.
And it wasn't until maybe like October 18,
Yeah.
I started feeling like, okay, there's a certain violence I'm starting to sense.
Yeah.
And I remember I used the phrase Tiananmen Square
Okay.
a number of times. So if you actually go through my Twitter, you see,
Yeah.
you know, which is why when it eventually happened, you know, there used to be like a meme on Twitter that there's always a David Hundeyin tweet for everything when it happens. Because,
to like premonitory.
yeah, because I felt like
It was increasingly, but you hadn't seen it before, right?
I had not seen.
To you, so your sentiment, just to get your sentiment before, you just at the protest, and what do you think is going to do, and what do you think the government is not able to? Like, do you think they had boundaries? You didn't think so, but you couldn't hope for that because it was really.
I thought, let me say, I overestimated what it was that we were doing.
Okay.
I overestimated it.
Overestimated it?
Yes, because you know I remember the very day that I went to Abuja and we had that whole because that day was like a movie. So many things happened that day. Like that's the first time I've ever been tear gassed in my life.
Oh yeah.
I hope it doesn't happen again. That was not a pleasant experience. And at the end of the day, the president came out. I mean, it was bullshit, but he made an announcement that SARS has been disbanded. It wasn't true.
Yeah,
but at least he said it.
Yeah.
And I felt like, okay, so
something
we did
had an effect.
Forced a sitting president's hand. Yeah. I've never seen young Nigerians have that sort of they say in our country before. Yeah. So I feel like, okay, we're doing something here.
Yeah.
You know. And then, you know, when people were like, no, we're gonna stay on the streets, you know, we have to see, you know.
Yeah, we have to see it through. Yeah. Like, is it really
it's not just about you making an announcement on TV and whatnot. And then I started noticing the state moving very, very funny.
Like, immediately after.
Yeah. It's like, okay. I'd never really seen this before. Like, I'd heard maybe my parents talk about such things because I remember like during the June 12 period.
Yeah.
I don't remember because I was like 3 years old, but my parents used to talk about it.
Yeah.
There was a massacre in Lagos.
Yeah.
Which I think has been lost to history now. But it actually happened.
Okay.
During the June 12 crisis, there was a massacre in Lagos. The military government actually shot a bunch of people.
Okay.
Who were protesting when the election was annulled. Right?
Yeah.
I remember my dad used to talk about those things, but I had never seen those things with my eyes. And even though I grew up under a military administration, I had never seen them do stuff like that.
Yeah. I think unless you experience it,
you know,
it's not.
And I guess the thing with the military is because, you know, there's always that very visible risk of violence with them. They're literally the military.
Yeah.
They're just stuff and break things. So because of that, and I think because they have some semblance of like rules of engagement or whatever, I think the military is actually less likely to actually do things like that. Because, I mean, you're not going to go out on the street and be protesting during the military.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay. Yeah. So people are just
do that. So, but when it's a civilian who's in power, it's very easy to forget that these things are possible.
Yeah.
Because somehow you think you were elected, or you claim to have been elected. So somehow there's some convention, there's some international community, there's some law, there's something like
Yeah.
there is nothing.
Yeah.
That was a really, really, really harsh lesson for me as an individual. I can't speak for everybody, I can speak for myself. It was the first time I understood that thing they call the international community is a fabrication. It doesn't exist.
I think my point stands. I think really, unless you really experience it, there's unfortunately, even for you, like let's say, oh, you're a journalist and you've seen a lot of things.
Oh yeah.
If you don't go through it, it's just like
sometimes even being a journalist and knowing a lot of things can itself be an impediment to learning, because you think you know a lot more than you actually do. So like in my case, I used to be very, very chummy with like the US consulate
Okay.
in Lagos. They used to invite me for their events. You know, I was nominated for an IVLP
Okay.
when I was 27.
Yeah.
You know, so I was, all chummy with them. I used to hang out with the what's the term for them?
The
Cultural attaches.
Okay.
I'm sure you know it's basically CIA asset. Basically CIA, low-level CIA agents, because the State Department is basically the public relations department of the CIA, right? So I used to be all cool with them, and we used to have these really what I thought were deep conversations about Nigeria, and so you will get the idea that these people broadly mean well for you. Maybe they're not actively working to better your situation.
Yeah, but at least they don't mean you harm.
Yeah, they don't mean you, right? And then like this kind of thing happens, and you start reaching out to all your contacts and colleagues everywhere,
and they're mute.
And everyone is just, as they say in Nigeria, they're just on looking. Everyone's just on looking.
That's
all the messages are getting aired.
Yeah, left on red.
And the people that you were so chummy with, when you start having these conversations, all of a sudden the conversation is so stiff.
Yeah.
Stilted. Like, what's really going on here?
Yeah.
And then eventually, I remember 2021, when like I had my come to Jesus moment. When I had an engagement with someone from the EU delegation.
Okay.
To Nigeria. We weren't in Nigeria at the time. I think we were in Accra.
Yeah.
In Ghana, and I had an engagement with this fellow, and I asked him point blank, because Buhari was president, and why is Buhari still being welcomed to Europe?
Yeah.
Because I think he had just been to Brussels, I think.
Yeah.
Like, you guys are doing like military parades to welcome this guy. This guy shot 100 civilians dead in the streets.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Like, that's like a war crime.
Yeah.
Why is this guy welcome? Why is he able to visit London and Brussels? And like, why are you guys welcoming this guy? This guy is like the people you describe as like the axis of evil and what.
Yeah.
This guy is
one of them. Yeah.
Why is he welcome? And he basically told me point blank. I mean, now I understand that he wasn't even being honest, because he wasn't being honest enough. But even just from what I heard, that was like, it blew my mind. What he essentially said was, our interest with Nigeria is maintaining stability.
Yeah, they have others. I think as long as you understand everyone's agenda, you're probably okay. You'll not be okay because it's still outrageous.
It was very jarring at the time. It was very jarring.
But they are not looking to protect you. Like, you're talking about killing civilians. They don't care. They really don't care.
Because another thing that did for me was that it also made me understand that even within the media space, my so-called international colleagues and I were not on the same side. I started to understand that very clearly from 2021, that because you're a journalist, doesn't mean that there exists a global community of journalists. Bullshit. It's not true.
That's hard though, because they're supposed to, and when you see the power that they have, and the huge bias that they actually have, you're just like, this is the most dangerous thing. Because when I see that, especially the 24 hours like news channel, I'm just like, this is how you feed people day in and day out, and it's they're not your friends. It's just no, but I think that if you don't live it, even if I say it, but you will have to kind of experience it, because
so I had to go through it. Because if you told me, I used to want to be like, I don't want to hear anything about external interference or anything
Exactly.
in Africa.
And also, it sounds
So-
like conspiracies.
Yeah.
It's like you guys are doing too
You
much.
guys have a victim mentality. You're always talking about how white men are victimizing you. It's always, we need to take responsibility. I was one of those people. I was 100% one of those people.
Yeah.
And then you run into the limits of the daydream you are living. You are living
Yeah.
and you're like,
Wow.
oh, so this is what's really going on. Oh.
Yeah. It's very nuanced. It's very layered.
Yeah, I remember when I did a story on the person who is now the sitting president of Nigeria. He was then a candidate in the election.
Mhm.
And I did a story showing that this guy was a drug dealer. And this guy has an indictment.
That was your biggest story, in my opinion. I was floored.
I'll tell you.
was.
There's no major journalistic establishment you can think of in the Western world that was not aware of this. I'll tell you that. So the guys I have colleagues that obviously I speak to.
Yeah.
I'm not going to mention their names. Wall Street Journal, Bloomberg, CNN, everyone read it. Everyone reached out to him for comments.
But
Everyone went back and did background research. Everyone said
But they didn't.
doing stories on it.
It never
Everyone
went
said
out.
that they were following up. And
Nothing.
none of them did a thing. And that was when it started putting two and two together. That it's not as if they weren't the ones who made that decision. Some of the journalists actually wanted to do stories.
Somebody killed the stories.
Yes, absolutely. And then, the further up the food chain you go, you start to realize that, especially in 24-hour news cycle in America specifically,
Yeah.
that thing they call the free press, it's not true.
I mean, of course
Not
not.
true at all.
But it was a good
Yeah.
story, though. Why
Yeah,
would
but-
someone kill it? Because it's a real good story. If like a dealer
Because that's
running for president,
because that story being told was not in the interests of the United States government. Because it was in the
Yeah.
interests of the US government for that guy to become president. Because if that guy becomes president and they have that sort of material on him, it's completely 100% pliable. When they say jump, he's gonna say how high.
Yeah.
That's exactly what has happened. So under Buhari, Buhari was a terrible president, but there were
Yeah.
other things that these sort of international institutions, which are basically US government extensions,
yeah,
wanted him to do, which he just refused to.
yeah,
Not because he was an altruistic guy or not because he had any good intentions, but
they didn't have as much
just
power.
get in his way.
Yeah,
And they couldn't really make him.
yeah, do.
This guy, every single thing they wanted Buhari to do, this guy's done everything.
That's
Every
crazy.
single one. Oh, unify your exchange rates, which basically devalues your currency by a factor.
Yes, but
Remove those fuel subsidies. He removed it. That was the first action he hadn't. I think during his inauguration speech
he already
was
mentioned.
when he removed it. And he didn't do it he literally just like at the end of the speech, just like spat it out into the mic. Subsidy is gone. He literally said, "You look for the video on YouTube. Subsidy is gone. That's it." Which sparked off an almighty crisis.
Yeah,
And it's just been like one crisis to the next.
after the other.
You've heard of this thing called shock therapy.
Yeah,
That was essentially that's basically what's happening in Nigeria. And that's because the current Nigerian president is completely like in lockstep with whatever the US embassy says. There's no pushback. This guy almost started a war with a neighbor, which is an insane thing to do.
that was
Most
that was
countries that
that-
fight wars try to fight the wars as far away from their borders as possible.
Yeah.
The US has never fought a war on its own, like
Yeah.
entity on its
Yeah.
own territory before.
Yeah.
It has never happened. The closest that came to happening was Pearl Harbor,
Yeah, that's right.
which is Hawaii, which is not even on the
Yeah.
American mainland.
You go and bomb far away.
They fight proxy wars. Russia
Yeah.
does not fight foreign powers on Russian territory.
Yeah,
Russia and the US are 55 kilometers away from each other across the Bering Strait.
yeah.
They've never faced each other directly. They prefer to fight with each other in Korea.
That's actually funny though. So it's
Vietnam.
like they're shouting at each other for far, but no one wants to be too close.
In Mali.
Yeah.
It's not. Yeah. The Nigerian president tried to import a war onto his
Yeah.
own border.
And then like even if it even if it was like I don't know, I don't think there's any premise to start a war. But I mean, it was just a to me it's like intra-uterine war. I don't know how to explain it. Like, which could, like, why? There's no
basis.
no basis. You guys, it's not like, we have states in Africa that are like, they have protection.
Nigeria has had 7 military coups. Who invaded Nigeria because there was a military coup?
Yeah, I'm just like,
On what basis is Nigeria invading anyone?
just like Nigeria, like, what's the
Then, in addition to that,
what's the problem?
what capacity did the integrated Nigerian military have
I'm just
to go fight Nigerian military that has not been able to defeat,
Boko Haram and all the
non-state actors?
Yes.
Wants to go fight a state? Really? Really? A state that has the backing of its people? Really?
yeah
And I guess that was where I got into my most recent
trouble.
type of trouble, which is,
This is when they tried to come and find you
yes.
in
Up
Ghana.
until this point, I had just been the kind of enemy of states who, if I ever set foot in Nigeria, they're going to cut off my head.
Yeah,
But from that point, it became an international thing. That, okay, this guy is such a problem now that we actually
we have to.
try to eliminate him wherever he is.
Yeah, because at that point, just to be clear quickly, they tried to assert that you basically put like the military in danger and that it was
So the accusation was that I aided terrorists by revealing the location of soldiers and that I committed treason. Treason in Nigeria is a capital offense, which means it's punishable by death.
okay.
Those charges are still outstanding, by the way.
Okay.
So technically, I'm a dead man in Nigeria.
Okay.
Technically.
Just let it. Okay, go ahead. I have questions about that as well. So that's the most recent. So you said all that, and again, I have both of them. My question is the same, pretty much. So the time frame is, to me, is extremely short. It's like literally in 4 years, your life is just turned upside down. You have to flee. Number one, how do you stick to your conviction? I mean, to me, it's not that hard. I think I understand why, because you're doing the right thing. But how do you reconcile? Because I also, at the same time, we live in the world where social media is huge. You have like over 1 million, like not only do you have followers, but your engagement is great. Like people listen to you, people trust your voice. So how do you actually reconcile being both? I'm actually, from where I am, the place where I was born and raised, I would say, I'm an enemy of the state, but I'm also the voice of the people.
Right.
So how does it work? And does it work actually?
So I guess the first way it works is that I never think of myself as a voice of the people.
Okay.
I never think of myself as a hero.
Yeah.
The minute you start doing that, you're half dead.
True.
I never think of myself as a hero. Everything I do think about the impact, but I don't think of myself as man of the people or anything like that. I sort of streamline my mind to only think of what I'm doing in terms of this is what I want to do.
Okay. And what is it that you want to do? The stories, but is there like a bigger vision? Is it like what drives you at this point? I think it's probably different. That
it might sound to some people it sounds petty, to some people it sounds unbelievable.
I love petty. Go ahead.
But I really want to prove a point.
What point is it?
That everybody's not the same. Because I think the idea is that the reason the Nigerian establishment is able to win so consistently is that it's able to consistently predict that people will either
they will bend, they will pay, they will
they either have a price or they lack a spine.
Yeah. Sure. Understand.
And that's always been the case. If the person has a spine, then there's always a price.
Yeah, sure.
If the person claims to have no price, the person lacks a backbone.
Yeah.
So I really just want to prove, and it's not the state I'm trying to prove it to, by the way, because I don't think the state really cares. I'm trying to prove it to Nigerians as a collective themselves that you can be different. Because I think one thing that if there's something that I hate the most about Nigeria as a culture and as a society is that we ourselves, or the people themselves, seem to think that the stereotypes and narratives surrounding them are true. You know, it's one thing for you to have narratives following you around.
Yeah.
You know, everyone believes Nigerians are, you know, they have horns going out of their head, right? It's one thing to have that stereotype following you around.
But
It's
you
another thing
believe
for you
it.
to actually believe it,
Yeah.
that it's true and that there's no other way for it to be. It just is what it is. I hate that. And I don't know why anyone should accept it.
Yeah, that's true. But okay, so how do you then recalibrate your life? Now you can't go back to Nigeria. Your family, I guess, is in Nigeria. Most of them. Now you have to live abroad. How do you manage? Like, I think probably still a process, but even mentally, like, how do you yeah, the best way I can say it is reconcile. How do you live your life? And you continue to do what you want to do, but you have to make all the arrangement. And I feel like a lot of people don't know, even myself, I don't, the logistical nightmare that it must be. Let's say, okay, you're a refugee, like even traveling or things as simple as, finding where to live, and you have to
Everything.
take care of your safety.
Everything has to be very carefully planned,
Yeah.
and scenarios have to be thought out in advance as much as possible, even where one is settled. So,
Yeah.
for example, in the UK, where I spend most of my time,
Okay.
movement can't just be random,
Okay.
because I mean these things maybe don't happen as much anymore, but these things do happen.
Okay.
Where some bright spark at some three-letter agency in Abuja will get some brainwave.
Yeah.
Decide, you know what? When I woke up this morning with a brilliant idea that's going to ruin somebody's life. Let's try it. So you saw last week a good friend of mine who was like a very well-known anonymous whistleblower.
Activist. That's what you posted about him. Is still in
Yes,
custody, right?
yes. And
Yeah.
basically, how did they get hold of this guy? I mean, to be honest, they are the only ones who can answer that question. But the point is, this is a guy who had every kind of security protocol you can think of.
Okay. He was anonymous completely.
Completely anonymous.
Until they arrested him, nobody
knew
who he was.
And somehow they say they've got hold of this guy somehow.
Yeah.
This is like the only weakness I can think of in the security infrastructure around him was that he was actually in Nigeria.
Yeah.
But apart from that, there's everything he did, there were 2 or 3 layers of separation.
Yeah.
And there was
Wow.
they still got hold of him somehow.
Yeah.
Because when it comes to that kind of like state repression, then they know how to buy all the technology from Israel and China.
So
They know how to do all of that stuff.
I bet.
But they have all that technology and they can't even use it
For good.
Let's not even say for good. Let's even say you're an asshole. Let's even say for the purpose of long-term regime security, right? Which is still a selfish goal. They can't use it for that. So, for example, you had all this technical capacity, and your neighbor next door, which is like a fraction of the size of Nigeria in terms of population, Nigeria was able to have a successful military coup, and you didn't know anything about it. That's like saying there'll be a military coup in Canada and the US wouldn't.
Yeah.
That's almost impossible.
That's true.
Or there'll be a military coup in Mexico.
Yeah, there was no. That's the basis of intelligence.
There was a coup in Niger. Nigeria had no idea.
Yeah.
There have been how many coups in Nigeria's neighborhood?
Yeah. Oh, there's been a few.
Nigerian defense and security establishment has been like,
That's actually true. I never thought of it like that.
And they have all this technical capacity, but they only use it to go to jail.
Yeah. For oppression.
To chase.
For their own interest.
Armed citizens.
Yeah.
Whose crime is leaking documents from the office from the budget office.
Yeah. I mean, it's
saying that this person stole money. That's it's, if you read what I put out, I described it, I put it very, very descriptively that these people spend millions on like a ceremonial Japanese dagger, right? And use it to cut suya.
That's good.
That's literally how they are.
That's good.
They have no wider sense of purpose, no ambition.
Yeah.
Really, they're very much like Cameroon.
Yeah.
In that respect, Nigerians are like the hideous twins.
No, we are the same people.
Very
technically, we're the same people. We are not very. I mean, there's no strategy. It's just a lot of brutality.
Christians are also roughly the same age now.
I mean, they're just trying to survive with brutality, and they don't. Yeah, and I think that's I think you said that there's
Everything is
no.
a transaction,
Yeah, it is.
and there's no wider thought or purpose to it.
No, they don't have any vision. It's not like they're not serving anyone. So
Country is constantly 5 minutes away from disaster. It's just surviving somehow.
pretty much. Yeah. So that's actually, so I think the segue to that, in that environment, and you work for an independent media. So how do you make it happen? Because to me, it's just like the environment is just not there. I've lived in France for a number of years, and I love how people are just like, oh, France is whatever. Like the media is heavily subsidized. So it's just like they don't have any more money. It's just somebody's giving them.
Exactly.
So in our environment where nobody's giving you the money, because of course they don't even want you to exist.
The people who are giving you the money are from the US.
Yeah, and then the people
The certain your reportage is
has to be
a certain way.
So it can be NGOs like grants and things like that. So they have an agenda.
Exactly.
And the people on the ground, they don't subscribe, they don't pay enough.
They do not. They do not.
So how
It has been my experience. I've had it very interesting.
it's not just yours, it's
Very
it's
interesting
been
experience. So I was on a program called Substack Local.
okay.
So back in 2021, Substack had this idea that, then Substack was blowing up.
Yeah,
So they had this idea that instead of just being like America focused,
yeah.
let's look for 12 journalists around the world and let's fund them for a year.
Mhm.
So that for 1 year, they don't have to worry about money.
Okay.
So they can just focus on growing their platform.
Okay. So you just do like you post on Substack and
Yeah.
okay.
Hopefully after that 1 year, it should be self-sustaining.
Okay.
These were the results. So first of all, most of I was the only African
Yeah.
on the list. The others were like Europeans and North Americans, and
Yeah.
one person from Brazil. There was a couple of Australians. They were white people, by the way.
Okay.
Okay, there were 2 black people, but the other black guy was an American.
Okay.
Doesn't really, Now, I got paid the least.
Okay.
Location-based pay. So I was based in Ghana at the time.
Okay.
So they allocated me $30,000.
Okay.
The Americans were allocated $75,000.
Okay.
So that's
Number one.
That's data point. Data point number 2. After 11 months of the 12-month program, we had like a final review meeting with Hamish. This is the co-founder.
Okay.
To like compare our numbers and whatnot. So from between like the person in 12th position to like the person in like 3rd position, I think they had managed, we were between like 2,000 and 6,000 subscribers each.
Yeah.
And the person who was coming in 2nd place, I think, had done like 10,000.
Okay. And
then the person who was in 1st place was like 40,000.
And that was you.
And that was me. That's data point number 2. Data point number 3.
Subscribers. I mean, paid subscribers.
Data point number 3. There was a lady who had 5,000 subscribers. And of those 5,000 subscribers, paid subscriber rate was 51%.
So that was
2,500 and something paid subscribers.
That's insane.
So if they're paying, let's say $10 a month, that's $25,000 a month.
Yeah.
Before taxes, anyway.
She just has to do that, and she's fine.
She was, I think, in like 6th or 5th place in terms of total subscribers.
Yeah.
And that was me with 40,000 subscribers. Guess what my monetization rate was?
I think I saw it somewhere. You said
0.12%.
That's 200.
Less than
100.
Yeah, 100 or something.
Yeah, no, that's
that's data point number 3. Data point number 4, in terms of page views.
Yeah.
In terms of like whose stories like made Substack segments suffer because of the amount of traffic. Who do you think was at the top of the list?
I mean, it was you.
Obviously. So it was this very interesting situation where this guy has the highest cost, basically, in terms of hosting.
Yeah.
But the lowest payoff.
Because also, that's really good. That's really good because you're saying basically you have the most views, but views mean like you're actually spending servers' money.
Substack is not ad funded, so there are no ads. So views don't views don't pay.
So basically, you're costing them money.
Yeah.
And there's no subscribers.
Yeah.
That's wow.
Yeah. So I actually flirted with the idea of just closing it altogether.
Yeah.
Because at that point, so I was in the middle of a court case at the time, which I
Yeah.
technically still am, because I was trying to myself and a guy called Aaron Greenspan, we filed a freedom of information
Yeah.
lawsuit against 6 US government agencies.
Oh, that was for the Tinubu.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to get hold of Tinubu's
Record. Yeah.
And I was paying for this, by the way.
Oof.
Like out of pocket. Right? And how I was even managing to pay for all of this was that after like a year of like that kind of growth, it's an American, well, it's Nigerian, but it's American, who is like a supporter of my work, had reached out through a trusted intermediary, and I basically bought a piece of. Because it was a registered company, right?
Yeah.
So basically bought a piece of it.
Okay.
So I took like a tiny little lump sum, and to be honest, that's pretty much how I was able to get through some of the things that I got through last year. Because last year was a really expensive year.
Yeah.
For me, I moved country twice last year.
Oh. Okay.
Because of being under threat.
Yeah.
So I had to flee Ghana at very short notice. I had a whole home that created for myself and everything. I had to flee at short notice. And I moved to Kenya.
Sorry.
Then I had to leave Kenya as well.
Oh God.
When I was moving to the UK.
Yeah.
Because then they were trying to lean on the Ghanaian government to revoke my passport.
Yeah.
Which would have essentially rendered me stateless in Kenya.
Oh,
not a good situation to be.
So you just like
if you are stateless in Kenya, you are a refugee in Kenya without refugee status.
Yeah.
You can get sent to one of those refugee camps they have on the border with like Uganda or something. You can become one of those people. You can end up in a Somali refugee camp.
Yeah. So how long did you spend in Kenya?
Just so I moved there in August. I was there till November.
Yeah, and then you moved. Okay.
Yeah. So that was a really expensive year for me. And this investor was how I was able to survive it, right?
Okay.
So and actually he was the reason I didn't shut down the Substack. And I actually kept doing stories.
Yeah.
And then toward the end of last year, he actually put together a consulting of people like him who are like, you know what, we believe in what you're doing.
Okay.
And we don't know what the future is yet.
Yeah.
But we're prepared to find out with you.
Wow.
So like they also came and bought into. So but instead of paying me like cash, they invested in kind.
Okay.
So like they paid for like equipment, studio space, started hiring people.
Yeah.
This is basically all investor money.
Yeah.
So we have maybe like a couple of years of runway.
Oh.
So within the next 18 to 24, maybe 36 months, I have to do what has not been done in Nigeria's space.
So are we expecting a lot of
figure out
shaking the table?
I don't know yet.
I mean, it is offended, so we are waiting for the stories. On top of stories.
I am trying to figure out business model.
Yeah, but at least you have the room to figure it out now. Okay, for a couple of months. I mean, you said a couple of years. Okay, that's not bad.
Well,
I mean, you're not dying. Some people are dying. Some people are not. They don't. I'm not saying that it's the best place to be in, but at least independent media, like you don't necessarily have the room. So I'm even surprised that people got together to say that. Okay,
that's because these are people who share similar viewpoints.
No, and that is not that easy to find.
The situation of Nigeria is so extreme now that people in the diaspora
are just like we have to chime in.
We actually have to do something.
Yeah.
And even then, this is not like these people are not pumping in millions.
Yeah, I know. I understand. I'm just saying that you're just not running wild. But
Y Combinator startup, far from it. This is like we're still pinching pennies here and there where we managed to pay full-time salaries in Nigeria. So we're doing all right. We don't owe staff. We pay staff relatively well, and our staff have.
But you still also fundraising. So ideally, you would need more funds to function to full capacity. But also,
the funny thing about that is, ever since because there's now a board. It's no longer just. So ever since the board came in, and I'm not the one making all the financial decisions anymore. It's become more of a thing of whenever people reach out all the time saying they want to invest.
Okay. Yeah, but
more often
not any type of
more often than not, the board actually knocks them back.
Yeah.
Because it's a very specific profile of people that they're looking for.
That's actually
First of all, you have to understand that if this ever becomes profitable, if this ever takes off, it's going to take a while.
yeah. No, it's
It's not
not.
going to be 12 months time.
I think it's
When-
not easy to invest in media, number one, and then what have you also like,
Number one, there's every possibility that media will not break even.
yeah,
Every possibility.
Yeah.
Because especially the type of journalism which you're trying to do,
yeah,
it's not just critical journalism that is x-raying the Nigerian establishment.
yeah.
It's also critical journalism that is x-raying the international establishment and like
Because-
shining an eye
Not everyone.
on foreign interference in West Africa,
Yeah,
which is what West Africa really does now.
yeah,
If you look at the focus of what we do, when I started it off as a Substack newsletter, it was focused exclusively on Nigeria.
on Nigeria, yeah.
Now it's West Africa. So we're actually right now in the process of hiring a francophone reporter
Ooh,
who
nice.
specializes in francophone. We already cover a lot of francophone West Africa,
Yeah,
but
it's not the same. You
We're
need
Nigerians.
yeah.
the team is Nigerian.
Yeah,
So we need someone who's on the ground.
yeah, of course.
You know, who has a better view, who can do it better. So that's what the goal is. And it's a very I keep on trying and hoping that one day somebody will get the message. I keep on putting this thing out there, I keep on flying this kite. That people in the African organized private sector, people who have capital in Africa, these are the only group of people who build capital that I can think of on the planet who don't have a way of getting their perspective across
Yeah,
to a large audience.
yeah.
Like, can you think of so Jeff Bezos,
Mm-hmm.
he owns the Washington Post.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not, that's his mouthpiece. Whether you like it or not,
Yeah.
that's just who pays the piper dictates it's you. Elon Musk owns Twitter.
Yeah,
Like it or not, he uses it as his mouthpiece. He can
He
put
does.
whatever he wants to push on you,
Yes.
like it or not.
yeah.
Bill Gates owns everything.
Pretty much.
Everything.
Pretty much.
He has shares in every media establishment you can think of.
Yeah.
Who else can you think of? Major Western capital holders.
Yeah.
Warren Buffett. They all have ways of getting their points of view across,
Okay.
including their political points of view, which protect their business interests.
Yeah.
Aliko Dangote has none. So till tomorrow, if some NGO is trying to create a smear campaign targeting the Dangote refinery, Aliko Dangote has to hope that the journalist that the NGO reach out to is someone like me that will turn it down publicly
Yeah.
and come out and expose it the way I did. Because if it's not someone like me, let's face it, $500 to most Africans is significant.
Yeah. I mean,
They'll do it and start a narrative war, and someone who controls $20 billion worth of capital is going to be on the defensive. That is unheard of.
Yeah.
It's only in Africa that happens because we really don't understand the importance of controlling narratives.
yeah, we don't. No, that's 100%. I think also probably in terms of generations, it might be a bit early. I'm talking about, again, I know Cameroon quite well, and all of the people who were post-independence, they're very quiet about and quiet in all aspects about their money. So it's just like, whether you got it legally or illegally, you're just like, I don't want to make too much noise. Even PR, they don't want to tell the glorious story about how they made it. They don't want to be in the media at all.
My point is, you don't even need to be telling a story about how you made your money. Right? You can be as private as you want. Warren Buffett's it's not a...
For them, it's all the same. So if for them, it's just the media is something that they just want to stay, because they don't know the difference. So for them, it's just like, if you're in touch with the media, it means you're talking to it. They don't have that nuance,
I think this boils down.
that layer.
I think I said recently that even Africans in the media, even African, or maybe especially African journalists, don't understand what journalism is about.
That's fair. That's fair.
So I think the reason for this is that journalism has been defined for the majority of us by foreign actors.
That's the question I wanted to ask. It was one of the last one, but I think we're getting there. What would be African journalism? Because again, everything that we live through as African is defined through the lens of colonialism, capitalism, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so how do we define our own? And it's not just to me telling our stories, like people say, because you can be in Africa and tell African stories, but basically, you will be like a Black African journalist working within a foreign system. But also, I don't have the answer. I don't know what it will look like, or how can we reform, and how can we serve our continent best, I would
I
say.
think what it would look like, there's a TV station in Nigeria which has something in the region of the right idea, but they're not
Okay.
quite getting it. I'm actually going to mention their name. They're called News Central.
Okay, I don't know them. I'm
Yeah.
definitely looking at them.
So
Okay.
the thing with News Central is they're owned by someone who you can classify as a holder of capital.
Okay.
In fact, he used to be a governor, he used to be a politician.
Okay.
Only has a lot of money, clearly has a lot of money.
Okay.
The stated remit of the station is to tell African stories from an African perspective.
Okay.
However, it's one thing to say that, it's another thing to actually understand what that means.
Yes.
I feel like they could do a better job of communicating what that means, even to people who work there.
Okay.
But so something I learned, I worked briefly with a media organization called African Stream in Nairobi.
Okay.
And something I learned from my time there. We had, I forget the name of this fellow, he was an American. He came to deliver a lecture when I was there. And there was something he said which stuck in my head. He said, there is no such thing as objective information. It doesn't exist.
True.
All information is somebody's information.
Of course. Yeah.
Which is why you need multiple
Sources, yeah.
to try and establish what you think of as truth.
Yeah.
And that even what you think of as truth is not what's
That's
all information is subjective.
yeah.
Right. So if you say that you are doing journalism for Africa, for in the interest of Africa, then that means you accept that it is not everything which you have been taught to accept from the journalism orthodoxy in the mainstream that will be your truth or that will be useful to you. I'll give you an example. Earlier this year, there was I think this was in April or so, there was a story that came out in Nigeria.
Yeah.
A number of actors in the civil society space did like an open letter to the president saying that he should turn down, that basically, long and short, the US was trying to pressure the Nigerian president into giving permission for a US military base
Okay.
to open up in Nigeria, which they tried to do to every Nigerian president.
Okay.
It even gets publicly reported sometimes.
Yeah.
So, and that he shouldn't give permission. So I did a tweet about this thing, and I said, well, here you have it. This is why they wanted this guy to be president so bad.
Yeah.
So that they can strong arm him into doing something that every single Nigerian head of state has turned down. Do you know the Voice of America did a fact check on my tweet?
Okay.
Yeah, the VOA.
Yeah.
Did a whole fact check. They used obviously an African to do it. Some Kenyan lady, I think her name was Purity Mwambia,
Okay.
a Kenyan journalist, wrote a fact check about my tweet. Because what the tweet was basically saying was that the US, like most Western entities, relates to Africa through a very specific sort of colonial kind of lens.
Yeah.
So the entire purpose of citing a US military base in Nigeria will not be to protect Nigerians. It will be to protect US economic and military interests.
I mean, of course.
That's what it's about.
Yeah.
And that basically the US sees Nigeria and the rest of Africa as a mine, an oil well, and a cash crop farm.
Yeah.
Which I think is an objective fact.
Yeah.
That's just the nature of the relationship between Africa and the West. Africa is viewed as the source of inputs for the global industrial economy. That's it.
That's it.
End of story. VOA did a fact check.
Okay.
Where they just spat out a bunch of stuff. And, at the end of the thing, put a screenshot of my tweet and then put an X under it. False.
Okay.
So if you say that you are doing African journalism, you need to be prepared to go head to head with that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Because I feel a lot of our people who saw what happened, who saw what the VOA did, and then who saw me publicly sort of calling them out, nobody backed me up. At least in the Nigerian media.
Yeah.
Everybody. VOA. Don't want their trouble. Or when I did a story in 2022, which the BBC found extremely embarrassing, because it was a story about BBC West Africa.
Yeah.
The shenanigans that go on in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Nigerian media space, like they knew a lot of these things were true. We all talk. We all talk what's going
you guys,
on.
yeah.
And everyone was just
Quiet.
say,
Hush. Yeah.
not because they don't want to talk, but because this is a powerful entity.
Yeah, it's the repercussion. And ultimately, maybe someone wants a job there, someone wants
Exactly.
to... Yeah. So
if you say you're doing African journalism, that the point I'm getting at is that you need to accept that means you have enemies. You have people you are not on the same side with.
that's true.
You
But
have,
okay.
If your ambition is to get a job at RFI or or BBC, you can't do African journalism. The most you can aspire to is maybe be a Larry Madowo.
So do you know it from the start? Because you've always been independent. So you always know that I'm going to be
I'll be
independent.
honest. I'll be honest and say that. So the reason for my insistence on independence at the start was actually more a local thing. It was actually more of I didn't want to be controlled by the Nigerian journalism status quo because
Oh, so it was more like in Nigeria itself
Yeah.
rather than
I
international.
hadn't yet
Okay.
figured out that even internationally,
Okay,
you really don't want to.
so
I hadn't still figured that out. In fact, I was doing some work with international players at the time.
yeah,
So I was doing some work with Jounalist.
okay.
So the Africa Report.
Yeah, the Africa Report. Yeah.
I was doing some work with CNN.
Okay,
Actually, I was doing some bits and bobs here and there.
okay.
And at the time, I actually used to be quite proud of it. I remember there was a time I had my Twitter bio. I had CNN column.
I mean, of course you would.
Yeah, I was quite proud of it at the time, right?
Why not?
Right for CNN.
Yeah.
It was a big deal for me back then.
Yeah.
Until like I sort of started having like my political awakening that these people,
Yeah, they're not for you.
yeah, their interests and your interests.
No,
They're not
aligned.
they're not necessarily even bad people, but
Yeah,
your
but
interests
they
are,
don't align. And I feel like that's actually the best way to lend. Basically, it's not like, oh, they want you directly. It's not like, oh, somebody is wishing you harm directly. But yeah, at the institutional, systemic level, your interests just don't align and you will clash, significantly down the path.
and
That's just not,
that's the
yeah.
tragedy with African journalism. It's the same tragedy with Africa as a whole. That Africa is a continent that has a war being fought against it, and it's not fighting back.
Yeah.
It's so people are fighting a war against you, and you are rather sort of debating whether a war is being fought against you.
That's actually true. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
we're still
just
making
keep
sense.
ceding ground, and they just keep taking and they're to the point where in what we have noticed at West Africa Weekly, because as players in that space, we speak from a position of authority. It's actually easier in Francophone Africa. It's easier for the French government to communicate with Africans living in Francophone Africa than it is for the governments in those countries to communicate with their citizens.
It is. Yeah.
So someone sitting in an office in Paris
Yeah.
puts messages into the heads of Senegalese people quicker than the president of Senegal.
Yes. Yeah. They have all the tools.
That has all kinds of security implications.
Yeah. All the media, they have all the tools.
That means you're not functionally.
You're not. And I think people know it, but they have other.
Thankfully, it's not quite that bad in Anglophone Africa. Thankfully, we have more of a thriving media space, particularly in Nigeria and Ghana.
Yeah.
But they still keep trying to make those inroads. So
They will.
it happens all the time that you see some embassy or maybe BBC Media Action.
Yeah.
Go meet some radio station and say, oh, we want to do training for your staff. And they take the staff to some nice hotel.
Yeah.
Speak a lot of English to them and tell them that it's a seminar and all
Big words.
And in return for that, they say, give us 1 hour, give us 2 hours at your station to broadcast our content directly.
Yeah.
So basically, content from Bush House in London or from Media City in Salford is being broadcast into Nigerian minds in Lagos directly.
Directly.
The reverse cannot be the case. And if it's going to be the case, there's a very onerous licensing process you have to pass through. If you're going to be, for example, if you have a Nigerian TV station and you want it to be on Sky, there's a very onerous licensing process you have to get through, and it's very expensive.
Yeah.
I know because I've met someone who they slammed him with a bill of I think £400,000.
Wow.
Per annum just to be listed on Sky. Yeah, they won't they're smart enough to not tell you that we don't want
that messaging or whatever. But they will
put
they will push it through a very strenuous process and then it won't happen.
Yeah, we don't do that. We are just open for everyone.
Yeah, all the gates,
all comers are welcome.
And they are really all of them. China, India, just everyone. It's basically the highest bidder.
I did an interview on RT. That's the
Russian.
Yeah. A few weeks ago in the aftermath of this Dangote refinery thing.
Okay.
And RT published the link on the interview on their Twitter.
Yeah.
I noticed that a few friends of mine, because I always use a VPN anyway. So I can view anything wherever I am in the world. A few friends of mine who are around the UK were messaging me this thing you just shared, we can't see it. And they send me a screenshot.
Yeah.
And apparently in the UK, you can't view the RT Twitter account. It says this account is withheld in the UK.
Okay, so they can't even see it.
Yeah, so the British government literally does not allow British residents to see an alternate viewpoint. So
Well, it was people in the UK who
Yes.
couldn't see it. It was just internationally they could
internationally you can see it. If you're in the UK, you can't see it. It says it displays a message. This account is withheld in the
Wow.
UK, EU, I think UK, EU, Canada.
Yeah.
You can't view the RT Twitter account in those countries.
Oh, so much about
Which
freedom
means
of
that the
press.
information that is available in those countries is propaganda.
Yeah.
Government approved propaganda.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Oh my, what about
Another example of this,
Freedom
a
of
few weeks after, I think, I forget what incident this was. Yes, there was a senior diplomat, I think in the British Foreign Office, who resigned recently.
Yeah.
And he published an open letter and he said he's resigning because the UK is complicit in war crimes in Gaza.
Yeah.
The entire UK media blacked out the story.
They didn't post.
And I later got to find out that they obviously were all aware of it.
Yeah.
Apparently, the reason they didn't report it was that something called a D notice was sent out. You know what a D notice is?
I don't. Tell us.
So a D notice is something sent out by, I believe it's called MI5.
Okay.
It's like a domestic
Yeah.
thing to all editors and media owners in the country, advising them. They claim it's not binding.
Advice.
They claim
Advising.
they claim they're not forcing.
It's
It's advising,
imagine receiving it.
but advising them not to cover a specific story in the interest of national security.
That's crazy.
Obviously, they're not going to tell you don't do it for that.
Yeah, but
But you know that if you actually break that, if you actually sort of
yeah, you just don't want to. You just don't want to touch it. Yeah.
the entire media, including the so-called liberal media like the Guardian,
Yeah.
nobody touched it. That's a D notice. The point I'm making with all of this is that people who say they are doing journalism in Africa often make this very stupid mistake of thinking that in order for you to be valid,
Yeah.
that you have to meet this arbitrary standard that has been set by these Oyimbos in London and in Paris.
And they don't even respect it themselves.
Those are liars. Liars.
Yeah, they are.
They're the world's biggest liars.
Yeah, they are.
Make no apologies for saying it. It's the truth.
And you
So-
don't need to apologize because
It's the truth. So if you say that you are doing journalism in the interest of Africa, you need to understand that what you are doing, what you're actually fighting is an information war. You're at war.
yeah,
At West Africa Weekly, one of the running conversations, the running things we always have in our newsroom. The problem I have even with people in our newsroom
Yeah.
because they have also been conditioned within that media space.
Yeah.
It's difficult now, but trying to sort of mold them a different way.
yeah.
The other day, someone published a story, and I went into the group chat and I said, "Look, this is a good story. Right?
Mhm.
It was well written, well put together, and everything. But what was the purpose of this story?
What do you mean?
Because if you're putting out a story on the platform that wants to advance the interests of West Africa, or
Okay.
that means every story you're putting out there must contain some sort of implicit benefit.
Okay. Yeah.
It must add in some way. It must be informing people, or it must be adding to a narrative. It must be doing something.
Yeah.
Well, if you're telling a story that says some agency somewhere in New York claims that 89 people died of monkeypox somewhere in Congo or something, some just a random,
Yes.
you can't even independently verify the story.
Okay.
But you're just
Understand.
reporting it
Yeah.
because some Oyibo,
Said it. Yeah.
that makes it valid. You're reporting it. Why?
True.
I'm not saying you shouldn't report bad news.
Yeah, but you should. Yeah, it should have some purpose to it. Like, it should be
At
verified.
the very least, you
Yeah.
should verify it yourself.
Yeah.
At the very least, right? Which then gives it a layer of authenticity.
Yeah.
At the very
Incredibility.
least, this sort of disheartening or bad news that is being communicated for us by us.
Yeah.
Not that we saw some white guy say it,
It was a repost.
but
Yeah.
repeating it
Yeah.
because a white guy said it. And the fact that the white guy said it makes it news.
True.
It's not news because you saw it somewhere.
Yeah.
Or let me give you an even more insidious example. When this monkeypox outbreak started,
Yeah.
we noticed that every single Western publication that touched the story of monkeypox, the illustration that was used was that of a black person. Why? Like, it's subtle.
Yeah.
It's subtle enough for you to miss.
Yeah.
But
But it happens all the time.
if you're familiar
Yeah.
with how media works, you know that
Yeah.
that was not
The examples and the visuals,
That's
the
not
everything. Yeah. It is not. It is not.
So we made an editorial decision at West Africa Weekly. Going forward, wherever monkeypox is mentioned, and we're using a stock image of someone suffering from monkeypox, look for a white stock image.
I love the It's very, I mean, it's not petty per se, but I just
It's
thought,
deliberate. It's
just
a
like-
deliberate re-engineering,
yeah,
wiring of the psyche
yeah,
in our space. That look, you don't just receive what other people gave you.
yeah,
You're allowed to create your own too.
yeah.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with it.
No, there's not.
You know, the only thing is that obviously by doing that, you know that all your Open Society foundations and your MacArthur's and your Ford foundations, they're not going to like you and they're not going to fund you.
Yeah,
But that's fine if you have your own
yeah, your own
idea
yeah,
of how you're going to fund yourself. But if your sole purpose and ambition is to be funded
yeah.
by some Oyinbo from Washington, D.C.,
It's going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem. All right. Well, if we had to conclude, what is your hope for, like, let's say the next? I think it's very layered because you have big fish to fry in Nigeria. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
It doesn't look great.
no, it does not. Absolutely does not.
But in terms of at least doing your job as reporting the news, what do you expect in the next, like, what would you like to do next 5 years? What it should look like? And how can people support?
So the first and most important goal, I think, is for this thing to become self-sustaining.
Yes.
So be that through achieving a commercial business model
Mm-hmm.
that makes it self-sustaining, which is unprecedented, and which we're going to have to figure out.
Yeah.
Scratch. And it's a huge ask, but we're going to have to figure it out somehow. There's that. So becoming self-sustaining. No, I didn't finish what I was saying. Either through a business model or through some sort of, I don't want to use the term civil society, but through some sort of endowment model,
Okay.
which does not make use of foreign capital.
Okay.
Because once the funding comes from outside of Africa, the editorial control has been ceded.
Okay.
So that's the first thing we're trying to accomplish. Become self-sustaining either through a commercial business model or through an endowment model.
And so,
that is
would you say, just quickly, you're against foreign capital 100%? In the sense where you think they always have editorial?
I don't
Say-
think there's
Okay.
no other reason for them to invest
In media specifically, okay, because maybe my background is a little different. So I've worked for, like, development, and they do crowdfunding. So they just basically they kind of agree to your premise.
even in the development space, as I'm sure you're all too aware.
No, they have a say, but I'm saying that if you maneuver, I've been in situations where they don't. Basically, sometimes it's crowdfunding. So they will give you the money, they agree to your premise, so you pitch whatever, and they're not on the day to day. So they give you the money, and you do whatever. Now, if you do, maybe they won't renew it. If you did something outrageous or whatever the case may be. But it's possible. But again, I think the caveat is also investing in media, particularly. It's very specific.
If they invested, have they ever, for example, have you ever seen them invest in, I don't know, 600 megawatt coal-fired power station in Africa?
No,
They're never
they-
gonna do
it's
that.
just
They'll start telling you about it's all 50 megawatt solar or wind. Yeah, that's what they'll tell you.
no, like,
Yeah.
it's very specific. That's for sure. There's a lot of things that they want.
You never invest in anything that has the capacity to actually change the narrative, become a game changer. They invest piecemeal,
I disagree.
crumbs here and there.
I disagree. It's also the way it's. To be honest, we don't also help ourselves. When I say development, is like it's always you can't go and work in Ghana and say that, oh, you will come and change the world. It has to be with the government. That's where you have a problem.
I-
Because, like, when you start now working with them, like, you can have the budget and you can have a transcending project or whatever. Now you come and it's a problem. Either the people don't have the skill or whatever. Like,
So how have the Chinese been able to do it?
myself, I don't know. So maybe the Chinese want to do this. Wildlife, for example, when you go to Rwanda, there are certain areas, they're not great everywhere, where, like, the government is very, like, I mean, they're efficient.
I know.
So you can work with them and it works.
Yeah.
And other countries, it just doesn't. You will bang your head. So I think it's the combination of both. When now you put not all donors and funders and development agencies are well intentioned,
Yeah.
and not of our governments, not all of them are well equipped, well intentioned, and whatever. So you put them both together, and it's the mess that it is now. It's hard to find the right combination of, we had the right funding and we had the right government and everything, and also not even right government. You can have the right government, and then it's a specific ministry because they put money in, let's say, health or tech or whatever. And so It's a bit of, it's not the agenda and we are not helping ourselves. And because we're not radical enough, clearly they will do whatever. Because I've been also in a situation where, I mean, if they were able to savvily negotiate the funding, and I mean, this is what they want to do. And they managed to go through with the project and it worked superbly. But to be honest, it's one of maybe 20. Most of the time, it's just because they don't care. They want the money and then they want to do whatever.
I'm happy for you, but in my space, that's not gonna work anyway.
Yeah.
When foreign capital invests in media in Africa, it's for one reason.
Yeah.
It's to control the narrative. So
Yeah, I understand. No, I understand
that's the first thing we're
100%.
trying to accomplish. Become self-sustaining so that it doesn't die.
Yeah.
The second thing we're trying to accomplish is, this is a lot more ambitious than the first one, is to become so influential within not just the West African, but within the African media space,
Yeah.
that it actually shifts how journalism is done.
Yeah.
Because the sort of default for journalism in Africa is this NGO model.
Yeah.
So it's what a bunch of Oyinbos who flew into Africa tell you is journalism.
Yeah.
That you accept
Yeah.
journalism. I always say that we're taught 40% of the job, the functional 40%. So how to write the 5 W's of the age, how to research a story, how to structure a story. Like, we're taught the functional elements of the story, but we're not taught the why.
Yeah.
And the why is the 60%. It's the most important part of journalism.
Yeah.
Why is the story being told? What is it going to accomplish? On whose behalf? Who benefits?
And also how, like, how are you even going to make it happen?
Yeah, why not
How are you
that?
going to fund it? Yeah.
So you'll see a Nigerian journalist, I'm not going to mention names, but a Nigerian journalist who writes for, I don't know, AP, something, wake up one morning and his boss, who is obviously a white dude, send him an instruction that I want you to write a story basically trashing Nigeria and saying that ever since the coup in 2021 that kicked out France, that Nigeria has become even more of a basket case.
Yeah.
They'll happily go write the article. There was such an article that I saw recently, and the article completely failed to mention that this basket case is Africa's fastest growing economy, 11% economic growth.
Yeah.
That's a journalistic crime. How can Africa's best performing economy since last year be a basket case?
That's good. Yeah, that's a great question.
Those two pieces of information cannot be true.
Yeah, it cannot.
So you basically wrote a lie because your white Oga told you to write it, and you feel proud of yourself that, well, I wrote something on AP, and you will proudly post it on your Twitter.
Yeah. Okay. And after you guys are influential, and yeah, I think after that you've made it. Like, if you can influence, is it like, I think it's both how journalists do their work, but also probably how the public perceive what journalism is supposed to be, right? How it looks like. And I think, like, yeah, there's a big piece about media literacy, like what a good piece actually looks like.
Exactly.
That's a fact.
I kept running into multiple times.
It's hard
because people, you wouldn't believe the number of people who have a problem with me simply based off of the fact that apparently my style is considered to be unorthodox.
Yeah. Okay. So like the structure of how you present the piece. Okay.
So because apparently what they've been taught by that sort of, what they don't realize is that what they've been taught is basically what was passed down to them, and what was passed down to them came from the BBC.
Yeah, of course.
That's
all
where,
of us.
that's
However we consume media.
So that basically that's that Radio Nigeria training school in Kaduna, which is like the foundation of most of Nigerian journalism.
Yeah.
It was founded by the BBC.
Yeah.
People that were there were trained by.
Yeah.
Right. So a lot of what you think. So what these people think a good story looks like is what you see in Punch newspaper and Vanguard. It's written in this very structured, formulaic way. The story always makes every effort to avoid drawing a conclusion on anything.
Okay.
Nothing is false and nothing is true.
It's a very open story.
Presenting both sides.
That's true.
You know.
Yeah.
And apparently that's journalism. That's what good journalism is. So I have photo evidence, video evidence in HD, 8K Ultra HD.
But you should present the opposite.
You killing someone.
You should present the opposite side just for the sake of.
In addition to even present the opposite side, I even have to reach out to you first and ask you, what are your comments on the allegations
Of you killing someone
that you
on Capitol.
allegedly killed someone? And then I have to publish what you said. No, first of all, I have to give you like as much time as you want
Yeah.
to respond.
Oh my God.
And then I have to
Good.
publish what you said.
That's
And
good.
I have to make it as prominent as the video evidence showing.
Yeah.
Then I have to tell the audience that I don't know what the truth is. So it's up to me. That is good journalism. And obviously, I had no time for that kind of
Just like get to the point. But I understand. I actually, I'm not going to lie. Yeah, like when you say like presenting the evidence and like we have to have all points of view. It's also initially that was my mindset. But also, I'm smart enough to understand that you also have context for that. You can be like in a genocidal state and just now wanting to go and reach to whoever. It doesn't make sense. And obviously, the states that we live in are just they don't even give us the leeway or the decency. So it doesn't make any sense.
There was an
yeah,
illustration that I used. There was a column that I wrote in Business Day a couple of years ago that captured this. I said, "There's a fish and a snake.
yeah,
The fish is in the water. The snake is on the river bank.
yeah,
The snake goes into the river and like bites the fish. Comes out of the river with the fish in its mouth, like
yeah,
in, and the blood is flowing and everything. And then there are three journalists. So the first journalist, who is like the sort of state-approved, praise-singing journalist who sees no evil, hears no evil, everything is great,
yeah.
everything is wrong. That journalist goes to speak to the snake.
Okay. To ask
He
him.
goes, what inspired you to heroically rescue this fish from drowning?
Wow.
And then writes down a whole bunch of nonsense and presents that as the story. Snake, like heroic snake rescues fish from drowning. That's what the first journalist does. The second journalist, who is a good journalist, who presents both sides of the argument, goes to meet, first of all, goes to meet the fish, and they ask the fish, can you explain why you are thrashing around inside the snake's mouth? Why I can see blood on the floor? And then the fish explains, and then it's like, so you are alleging that this snake may be trying to kill you. And then he goes to the snake and he says, what are your comments on the allegations?
You're trying.
You are trying to kill the fish.
Yeah.
And then he uses a ruler to measure both responses to make sure that what he's publishing is the exact same length of each one. And he publishes it, and the headline is controversy and snake and fish trade accusation as controversy
That's
rages.
excellent. Yeah.
And then the third journalist is me.
Just like
Says,
the snake just bite the fish.
trying to kill the fish.
Yes.
Simple. It's a very simple. I'm hoping that eventually people will get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you are in an unusual state of upheaval, like you really don't have the luxury
To do all that.
acting
Yeah.
like a member of the British landed gentry. You're not.
Because the British were, even them are not gentle. That's the point. The people who showed you the way, they're not even doing it for the reason you
And
think
the
they
entire
are.
reason they could be that way was because they were living their lives on top of your head.
Ooh, rich. Yeah. Wow, that's that.
Growth.
Yeah.
Basically.
Exact. Oh my God, that was really good. That was really good. But yeah, that was great. Thank you, David. I'm very grateful for our conversation. It was very extensive. It was really good, and I hope that people learn more about like what it is to actually live in the heart of media, what it implies, how uneasy and comfortable, dangerous it is, but also how important. And I think that there's different, not everyone needs to be like a hero or journalist or go and do all the big shebang. But I think at the very least, support, share the right information, because I think we are even at the basis of people don't even know what's right, what's wrong, they can't really decipher what's the right information. So at least if people are educated enough, they are literate enough to understand that we are in a state of emergency at all times. So it's very important to choose the sources and the media that you consume very very carefully, and you are one of them. So we are very grateful for your work, first of all, because it's very, very important. I've seen and read all sorts of shenanigan things too. I'm just like, Nigeria, you guys are going through a lot, because sometimes I see also, I think last year it was something about like a fake airline or something.
Nigeria,
They are doing a lot.
this book,
Yes,
chapter 19.
yes, and people should. Where can they get the book?
So it's on Amazon.
Okay,
So that's the easiest place to get it. It
okay,
delivers basically worldwide. If you're in Kenya, it's available at Nuria bookstores, which is at CBD.
okay, perfect.
Nairobi.
And it's a compilation like of all the stories.
It's
The biggest
it's
one.
not just the compilation. It's also there's also stuff that no one has seen before.
Okay. Oh, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's good. Okay. Well, you guys know where to get the book. Thank you again for joining us. We'll speak again soon. I still have more questions.
Okay. Don't doubt it.
Thank you guys. Bye.